This is most unusual.
Are you?
She's usually the second person. I'm here first, she's here second. Do you need one? Please. That would be. I think anything's possible. No, she lives in 5, and she could come through there, but
Who are you waiting?
Yvonne, she's got to do the minutes. I'm doing, she said 2 minutes. Believe me, I would be moving, but it's hard to leave the secretary behind in this delinquent. Meeting's officially started, 8:05. 8:05. You're the first one up, Yvonne. The minutes. We held the field. She did. Hello. Okay. Would you get, this is the language corrected. There was 2 corrections, or 3 corrections that had been made in the language of the first, not in the resolution, but in the material attached about the parking. So this is the full corrected. Could you pass this down to them, and I'll give you one. Good, Jeanette and Dan, this is yours. This is the correct. They had to be punched up, that language, so it's been changed a little bit from what you have.
So who's the?
One for you, one for you. Okay.
Okay, group, the minutes, open and closed, they are third regular meeting, as circulated.
That's certainly. Second. John. Any discussion? None? Let's move to a vote. Okay? All in favor of the minutes? Being accepted? It's unanimous?
Well,
No, no.
I wasn't here.
That's right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You're an abstention. Not because we want you to be, but because we have to have you be. Okay. Russell, you're on.
Who's missing? Doug?
Doug.
Good evening, Board of Directors and shareholders. The first item in my management report has to do with the parking agreement and rules. Over the last month, myself with Larry and others worked on refining the wording of the agreement. Everyone should have received a handout this evening with revision of some language that needs to be changed at the last moment. I apologize for that.
So what language can you highlight?
Yeah. In the first, in number 4, on the first page, if you look at your old one, you'll find the change there. Number 1, I guess, is what it's called. I read it as 4. Number 1.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a number 1.
The way the agreement was written, anything underlined was a new addition.
Right.
Anything stricken through was obviously removed from the previous version.
I don't think we mean to strike the number 1.
No, no.
No, that was a.
It was just a wild and crazy one. While doing the budget, he just went completely bonkers. All right. And the second one?
It was in the rules portion, which is the attachment, I believe it's on the.
It's the last 2 pages, I believe. Yes. It's the last 2 pages back
Under
to
the
back.
corporation rules.
See the last 2 back to back? Which part?
It's the part that reads, licensor may accept applications from non-shareholding co-residents for a stockholder's apartment. However, the actual licensee must be the stockholder, and the provisions of paragraph 3 of these rules must be fulfilled.
Okay,
In other words,
we're missing the word however. We're missing one word in here. It came out without.
in other words,
however.
sublessee.
Uh,
A
it's here. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
sublessee cannot take over a parking spot. It can only be
In the
a
name.
shareholder.
Right.
Okay.
And the other big thing is you can't park a motorcycle at the same time as a car.
Don't go
No,
where?
it seemed to suggest that, it did.
Yeah,
when
we
I read it, I
Vehicles of any
didn't
sort.
suggest it.
Yes,
Yeah, two
that
smart
was-
cars.
yeah, two smart
Right, two smart cars.
So to summarize,
It's gonna sit here.
Smart cars.
They came up.
So
All right.
to summarize, here are the highlights of what has been removed in general from the document. The removal of the references to Corpus Christi and Union Theological Seminary, Reinforcement of the policy and rules for the sole use of the parking space for vehicles. Allow for partial billing of the first of the month.
For motor vehicles, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
So like, no bikes?
No
correct.
rest.
Solely for motor vehicles.
Yeah, well, this is just in, this is in this report, but it's in there, it says motor vehicles.
We are now allowing for partial billing of the first month's rental of space.
So long as it's the first half,
Yes,
okay.
so it'll be up to the 50.
We voted that last year.
Right.
Allow dual but not simultaneous use. You can't park a car
That's
and a
okay, by the way.
motorcycle.
Yeah. Dual but not simultaneous use, so either or.
Right, there is a scenario where a shareholder and or a member of their household may have two vehicles.
Mhm.
Only obviously one could be in the parking
Right,
spot
at
space
any one
at
time.
any one time.
Can I ask, were these amendments, run by council?
No.
I can tell you that the language is not the clearest.
Mhm.
You know, not, dual but not simultaneous use.
It doesn't say that.
Well, that's an extended
I know, I know.
version was changed.
It says that, but I don't like that language.
But that's
But
not,
we're not
that's
using
not
that.
the actual.
That's only in
summary.
the report.
Right.
We changed the
Right.
language.
No. Dual is stricken.
The dual has been stricken. It's not in there. It's in the number one. That's all been removed.
All right, I'll watch it, okay. Only one motor vehicle may be parked in said space any permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
No, we wanted to be clear.
Clear now.
We removed all references to a reduced motorcycle rate as well.
Yeah, I saw
Motorcycles
that.
will be a one space, same rate as a vehicle. And we're allowing the utilization of a space by visitors for up to 10 calendar days per year, as long as they would register with Department of Public Safety and receive a permit.
I think the word motor should be put one more time in that
Yes.
number one.
Yes,
After specified, it should be motor vehicles.
yes.
All right, we'll do that? Everyone
The board
can
would
agree?
agree to it.
Where?
Right here.
The second
Where the
line
bold,
of the.
the bold
one,
face, it should be bold motor,
That's good.
so we understand it's a motorized thing. Dan, you have something?
Two questions. Why 10 days? Why that number?
Yeah.
Well, at this point, the reason why we changed it is up until now, we've had unlimited days. People were going to the head of public safety, asking for a permit to put on a placard, to put in the car, and then subletting the spot.
Well,
To-
that's not legal.
Yes, but this is to control that impulse that might be there to give it to somebody for cost, as adverse to, I have a relative coming to visit me, I'm gonna let them park in my spot, I'm gonna park somewhere else. Or, I'm gonna be away for 2 days, my neighbor's having someone coming, a family member, and they would like them to use it, so they can use it.
This
But-
also reinforces from the shareholder's point of view,
It's a
the
custom
policy
place.
we put in place with staff. Staff is not allowed to utilize shareholder spaces.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get but I mean, people do, I mean, you're not supposed to sublet your space. and
Absolutely.
Make money from that, period. But,
10
yeah,
days.
how are we gonna, so now we're gonna like be policing like, okay, you got 6
Vincent-
days left.
Vincent Montalvo said he has no problem with this, this is an easy thing to do.
You
He's
know, you
prepared.
may not have a problem, but personally, I have family too, I mean, how about 30 days?
Well, 30 days
30 days too.
could run into a leasing situation. We couldn't, there's no way to police that. If you said, I'm gonna have
At
30
least 10,
days,
you can certainly do 30, is
10 is harder to sublet. 30 is easy to sublet.
what you're saying.
That's the reason.
1 day, I mean, I just wanna like, if somebody goes away for 3 weeks, okay? And somebody stays in their apartment and they have a car, is that allowed? I mean,
No.
why wouldn't that be allowed?
For the 10
Only
days.
for 10 days.
I'm right, I mean, it would be for 10 days, but
Yeah.
why would that be a problem for the co-op?
Again, I'm not, personally, I'm not 100% married to the number of 10 days. I believe that's up for a board discussion, and we obviously
That
can
seems
amend
like
it.
a little short.
It's an issue, it's really come up.
Just 2 weeks.
Well, it came up because of the subletting that went along with this unlimited use of, it's a culture to let someone use your spot, but it can't be a culture to let someone use your spot and get paid for it as in subletting, and that's the issue, is to control. But nobody wants to take away the right for somebody to come and visit you and let them use the spot, or have your neighbor use your spot when you're not there. But we can't have it become a way of being abusive. Yes?
I agree with that, but, well, as long as we're not married to the number, why don't we just make it 2 weeks or 15 days?
Oh, 15
Yeah.
days.
Is that good?
We just don't make it
15
renewable.
15 days.
Yeah, how about 15 days?
No.
15 days? Is everybody
15 days
agreeable?
out of the year.
But
No,
something
you-
about renewing it. like
You want to
if
speak
there is
against
a-
that, or can we agree to the 15 days?
I don't think you should.
So, all right,
I don't know.
all right, go ahead.
As far as I know, quite probably at least more than 10 or maybe 20 shareholders will go away during the summertime. They are away for the summertime, from July to September. So how are we going to do that?
They're not gonna be able to give away their spot for more than 15 days.
I think that's not really reasonable, because we have a lot of, especially seniors, they have a summer house, specific, or professors, they have summer house to
Yeah.
go from
And what do I
here
care?
to leave.
And what,
And
make
then
me
they
care,
still
I don't understand why I should
pay.
care.
But why we let this space empty for 3 months? And then they still pay, and then they can have their friends coming in,
If-
they have trade or whatever.
Exactly what you're saying, I think is the loophole which opens the
But,
opportunity for
You
abuse.
see, if Montalvo can do it, how is he going to remember? If he can put in his calendar, if he's very good at calendar, you have a reminder, like September 1st, this person has to return. So whether 10 days or 30 days or 3 months, he has in his calendar, like say cheap vehicle is away, it is letting another person know, like use for 3 months, September 1st, it's due date. And then he will go out on September 1st to that space to see.
Well, part of this is
That's
defining the
really,
time
I think
frame, so if the
that's
15 days
just-
is
Yeah,
less,
if
let's
he's really reinforcing.
discuss another number,
there's-
offer another
The
option.
longest, maybe we say 3 months, that's it. And then let's see how many people use that. You see,
Never mind.
because-
My treatment.
So I think the assumption I think is that the person is not like reselling it or making
Right.
money off it or whatever, so that's, I guess that's what she's doing, but, the one thing I was gonna say was, if there is like whatever we decide, like whatever period, if there could be some option to renew, like, or kind of revisit it, so in some cases that may be a legitimate, issue, and so it could be something that could be, like, it could be for a period of 2 weeks, but then, and then it could be revisited or what's the word?
Really, yeah.
That's how.
You're inviting, just let me say this.
Complicated.
All of this benevolence that we want to show to someone who's paying a monthly fee and owns the spot, literally owns the spot like they own their apartment. No one's taking it from them, it's their spot. If they have a wife and she has a car and they're not there, the wife can use it. You have a son or a daughter, they come home from college, you decide to go away for a month, that decal's on their car as well. They can use it. But what you're saying is to let someone who is not related to the people who own that spot through their apartment rent ownership, now we should allow them to have 15 days and renew another 15 days, and we can renew. And I'm telling you, the problem will be that we're dealing with the problem of subletting. It becomes a corruption. This is not something that is unique. When I say subletting, it was not something that was done by one person. It was being done by many people, and it was being done right during the summer. From June through September, from July to September, it's an abuse of the rules. And if you want people to lose their spots, then we can let them abuse it, but they're gonna be found out, and we're gonna pull the spot from them because they're subletting it. And I don't wanna put that temptation in their path. This is a benefit that they're getting. No other parking facility in the world
No, I know
allows
that. I know.
15
No, I
days
know.
for anybody. Dan?
Well, you mentioned that it's, this is like, there's subletting, I mean, maybe we should apply the sublet rules to it. I mean, you could do maybe after like, a reasonable amount of use, like 50, maybe it becomes like the 50%, bump. We will charge, 1.5 times the parking fee for the if that space is occupied.
That's not a good idea.
Okay.
This is a parking spot.
Okay, well, we do it at the apartments, I mean.
Yes, in a parking spot. Wait, I
It
thought
would
it
have
was
been
Andy, then you
75% more.
Andy, go ahead.
I was a part of discussions earlier, and I actually, I came up with that solution, and it was as eagerly embraced by Larry when I think.
Well, you know, Larry's the president, and he's not.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying.
He's
that
saying, I'm
appreciate
eagerly,
that.
I eagerly embraced it. You heard what he said. It's sarcastic, and he's correct.
But, and everything else I said, Larry just said in a slightly different way than I would, but that is, the idea of the rules is people will break rules, and the idea of the rules is to make it harder to break the rules.
Jeanette?
All right, two things. One, you said that, hey, if their son or daughter comes up, they can use the spot, right? But that's not here.
Yes, it is.
Where? It
It's-
says, so long as a co-resident.
No, you're talking about co-residence, that's a different thing, that's a special
Tell me
relationship. Wait, 1 second, please.
All right.
Co-resident is a term of art in our place, because if you own the apartment and you have a boyfriend who wants to live with you, it's possible, but if you do, you have to register that boyfriend and he becomes a co-resident.
So so long as I register, say, a relative, that allows a relative to use the spot.
If they're living with you.
Okay, I think that's pretty good, Ed. I think that's pretty good. If they're living with you.
Right, now,
Wait, wait,
but
wait,
if it's your
wait.
child, they are living with you.
Wait,
You know.
if the child is,
They're living with you even if you're
They're
a
all right,
couple.
Formal
wait, now,
relationship.
all right,
With the code.
You have
No,
3
no.
cars, Jeanette, put it this way. You
Yeah.
have 3 cars in your family. You have a car, your husband has a car, your daughter has a car. Your daughter goes away to school with the car. But you want her to be able to use that spot because you're gonna take the months of July and August, or June, July, and August, you're gonna be somewhere else.
right.
You want her to come home from school and to be able to park for free. She gets a decal just like you do, just like your husband does.
Where does it say that here?
It says,
Co-resident.
solely for the parking of specified motor vehicles. Vehicle or vehicles is plural, so all over the
By or
place.
principally for use of the licensee or co-resident or licensee department. Properly
The
registered.
licensee is the person, it's the family.
Yeah.
A
No,
co-resident
my
is
concern
different.
is this,
It's not your parents who live in New Jersey.
No, it can't be, because they don't live, they have no relationship to that.
You're making it sound like that in one sense.
How can I do that?
The immediate family.
The immediate family. I'm talking about the immediate, Dan, you have 2 sons. You have a car. Your wife may have a car. Your son's gonna go away to school in about 3 years. He's gonna go away. He's gonna get a car. Not the first year, the second year. You're gonna get one.
I get it.
Right,
Still
okay.
arrangements, yes.
But you're gonna say to us, I have 3 cars. I wanna register 3 cars. So you get 3 decals. Now, if you can find a way to put 3 cars in there in violation of the rules, that would be good, but you can't. You can only put 1 car at a time in that spot with a
No more
decal.
examples. No more examples, please.
I don't know, one, just as a sort of a little aside, when I first moved in here, it was 1995, I think it was.
Ahead of it?
And one of the things I loved about this place was how tolerant it was about certain things. For example, owning a dog, right? We had a dog at the time. And, when I see, I understand the absolute need for rules and stuff. When you make it so restrictive and say like 10 days, then I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of short.
If we are willing to make it 15, I have no problem. If that's the will of the board, we make
How
it.
about 3 weeks? Can we do 3 weeks? Is that a little?
That's 15.
That's 21.
3 weeks becomes 21.
21, now you're coming close to, I'm telling you, you're coming close to the point.
All right, that's, I don't feel
15.
bad about that.
Okay, 15, we're good? 15. All right, that'll change, 15. All right. And since we've exhausted,
Where is it? I don't know.
No, I just, because Jeanette mentioned that, are we sure like we don't need our lawyer to
no,
review?
there's nothing in here that's changed dramatically. We changed only the expression of how you can use the spot. Up until today, that spot could be used simultaneously by at least 4 different items.
The only thing, Larry, is that with respect to this agreement, there's certain
I think,
things that could be a little cheap, but, I'm sorry, go on, we're gonna say.
wait, I think Dan was next, that's why, that's the reason why.
I just wanna speak in opposition to the limit here. I think this is a solution in search of a problem, basically. Yes, people are subletting, so what? I mean, if they're making money on it or something like that, if people have whole side businesses going on, that's a problem. People are going away for the summer. they're having people in, whether they're, they're using it, they're probably, they're staying in an apartment, and they're subsidizing their parking space. So what? So what? All right, that's all I gotta say.
You and Mason.
The only comment I could actually think of that, Dan, is I think that turns into something unfair for a shareholder who actually bought an apartment here, who's waiting for their very first parking spot. And your visitor in the summer parks here because they came and visited,
But
you know, I mean,
you
they're.
can't penalize people for having a second home and being away for 3 months.
That's their business, not our business.
But it's theirs, as you said, they own that space, technically they rent that space, but they have that space. That's their space. You're saying it's a class of citizens that stay here 365 and should be there, okay, and should be in that space. They matter more than people who happen to have a house someplace else and bail out for the summer or the winter or whatever it is. And then, so they somehow shouldn't, that space is a problem.
Chief.
Yeah, speaking of what Russell just mentioned, some new shareholders come in with a car, with a waiting list. And then, since our communication committee is going to put on a website like intranet, so people who go away for the summer can say, okay, I have a parking space for 3 months. And then the new shareholders, if they want to use that for 3 months, that's between shareholders, and then they can use it, and then they can pay among themselves. That's not illegal. I think
Yes, it is.
that's-
Well, currently,
So I
certainly
know,
is.
I
It's
mean,
always been
a
yeah,
rule.
but
The rules have
I-
always been in place. Just a minute, Chi, you said something really wrong. The rule about paying for a second person to use that spot is illegal, and we have a right, and we've always had a right, to remove the medallion from the car and have your car towed, if you did that.
I mean,
It's
if
always
they
been in the rules.
register with the office, and then this is between shareholders, and then the both
It's not between
entities.
shareholders, it's
I
between the
think
corporation and the
this is our
shareholder.
call out, and then if you register, anything happens for that parking space or for that vehicle, which doesn't belong to the shareholders, like vehicle, it's that somebody sees, their problem if they want to use that. So I think, I don't know why it's so, I'm not agreeing with
That's your
setting
right.
up this one, so it's so policing the shareholders. It's not only just people going away, I know there are so many people going away for the summer. Some people even going away for the winter. So, this is, I don't know, we should make it more shareholder friendly. Because this is a co-op.
I heard you, Jeanette.
You know what, that's actually,
Her name was on the list.
She was next?
Sorry.
all right, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. What is the rationale for policing it this way? I mean, just because it's in the lease or the licensee agreement since the beginning of time doesn't, in my mind, justify coming up with these, basically not changing it. I mean, that's a good point. If another shareholder wants to use, say, my spot, because I go away for 5 weeks in the summer, which I wish I could, why not allow that? Why is that such a bad thing?
Okay,
Why is it such a bad, so long as the corporation gets its monthly
Okay.
parking fee for that spot?
we've
Why-
answered this question. It's
No,
time to move
actually,
on.
No, that answer,
We've
that's
answered
not.
the question.
I don't
Believe
think
me.
you have.
I believe we have. We've answered the question. This has been asked now 3 or 4 times by 3 different or 4 people. If you have nothing else to say, we shouldn't really debate this any further. There's nothing else. People have their minds made up. We should call the question and move forward. The only question I ask is, do we have an agreement on the number of days? Otherwise, it stays at 14. It goes up, it goes up and down in 10.
I think Andy has.
I just want to say very briefly, in response to what Chief said, is this is just a way to enforce the rules that have been in time. So I work for the government. We have a lot of rules. If you break the rules, it's a big problem. So I come from a culture where we take the rules seriously. And so if you want to change the rules and liberalize them, that's a whole nother motion. Maybe next month we should have a motion that we change this to go the other way. But this motion right here is a way to enforce the rules that have been in place for all this time.
Okay?
Good suggestion.
So,
Thank you.
having no other discussion, we're going to a vote, unless you agree to a change of dates. It's the management report. Who's moving it? Who's moving this motion? We have to move it. Okay. Is it seconded? Is it seconded? Is it seconded?
Yes.
Yes, okay, Andy seconds it. The next thing, does anybody, Andy,
Sure.
does anybody want, do we want to make it 15 days? I want a consensus right now, yes or no, otherwise it's 10.
15 is
I'm fine with 15.
15? 15? Okay? 15. Done. Okay, we're ready for a vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 3. Abstain? 1. All right.
May I ask who the 3 no's were, please?
Jeanette, Dan, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next item in my management report is resident information. This ties actually into the parking agreement. Now that we're gonna move forward with a new parking agreement, we're gonna ask that all residents who park here sign the new agreement at the beginning of the year. Obviously, we're gonna give a reasonable amount of time for everyone to get to us to sign these agreements. In addition to that, we're gonna ask everyone to provide their basic information to management.
What's
There's-
basic information?
What's in the agreement?
Well, for parking, it calls for the registration and insurance. For the other basic information I'm talking about is very simple, name, phone number, email, ways to contact you. We want to be able to utilize our additional technologies that Cooper Square brought to the field with resident alerts through the telephone, email blasts. Hopefully, in hopes of one day reducing the amount of paper that's really going out in the field. We put it out there several times with residents to go to the website and register for Cooper Square Connect on their own. The showing has been abysmal, we're probably less than 10%. So we want to gather everyone's information. I think it's something that we should have on record in the management office. Some people change phone numbers over the years, and we probably still have old information. So that other basic information as it relates to the co-op. Do you have a bike in the bike room? Do you have a storage room? What's your storage room number? Your basic information about the co-op.
Yes, Jeanette.
Just a question, once you get this basic information, is there gonna be an email blast? Or, it just seems to me, once you have, when we signed up with you guys, I was looking forward to the Cooper Square Connect piece of it.
Right.
When we first got our first maintenance bill through Cooper Square, I went to the website, of course, it was just a shell. It was not very usable. There was nothing backing up just this superficial interface.
Right.
And I think that's just, so then basically I wrote that off and I just go ahead and send my checks into CSR and I haven't gone back to it. So that may explain why there's very little use of the Cooper Square Connect
Perhaps.
as of now. Once you get this information, it will be helpful, I think, if you just send an email blast or send some kind of a communication in the medium in which the shareholder has identified is the best way to reach them.
Right.
That way, they know how to reach you.
Right.
So, just a suggestion, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
DMS.
Next item is the, I want to report to the board. Part of the long range planning committee and systems and structures as well, we're looking into the next phases of the BMS system, phase 4 and phase 5. I met with PepCo last week or the week before, and it seems as though there has been some changes between phase 1, 2, and 3. We supposedly already completed phase 3. However, portions of phase 3 was not actually completed. That would have been the roof vent fans. So now they're going to incorporate that into phase 4, and we're going to look for get the prices and the information on that issue. Additionally, we pay a maintenance contract every year with PepCo, which they agreed to leave flat for this year, not increase it by the 2% they normally would have. We're contractually obligated to pay. They're going to figure the 2% for the calendar year.
So no increase. Yes, Mike.
Would you just give us the roof, the fans, can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
The roof vent fans for the exhausts for all of the bathrooms
Right.
of the building. There was initially discussed prior to me coming here, phase 3 of the BMS system was to incorporate all the roof fans. They got as far as the controller. They installed the controller, which can operate it, which ties it all into BMS system. But the fans themselves, the physical fans, were never replaced yet.
Okay.
So that portion has to get done, tied into the system, which now we're going to incorporate into phase 4.
So if they're currently broken, they will all be replaced and then tied to the.
Yes.
so you can monitor it.
Yes.
And it'll be a capital expense when this comes before us. Yes, Jan?
What vendor is?
Pepco.
With the exhaust fans?
Pepco is the controls.
Is the
Right,
BMS
in
control.
terms of the new exhaust fans.
Oh, that's gonna be, we're actually working with Skylar now to, and we're gonna do, we discussed this a couple months ago, drop the cameras down all of the shafts to determine if there's a block in the shaft preventing the airflow. Once we complete that, we're gonna work with them on sizing of the fans, creating the spec, that spec goes out to bid, so at this point, I don't know what the contractor
So it'll
may.
be a while before Pepco gets to be able to.
Well, they're actually ahead of the game. The controllers have been installed and have already been paid for by Morningside. So they're ready to go.
But there's no, you can't use them until a new exhaust
A
fan.
new fan is put in
Right,
place,
and that will
correct.
happen for a while.
Right.
Chief?
Yeah, the one you mentioned, which is Skylar is going to do a camera drop down.
Yes.
Like, yeah, which is good because I remember when Alan Lagaspi was here, he mentioned certain things like our like tubes in each certain floors, like during those I
The
don't know,
cones.
shoot. Yeah, there are some narrow parts, and then even though if we change the fans, and then it still doesn't work well.
Correct. If
So
the
we
system's
really
not
have to be
balanced, it's
careful.
not gonna work right, correct. That's
Right.
why we need the engineering, in on that for the calculations of the load it's gonna take to exhaust the.
Right,
the
and
fan.
then you'll go out to bid, right?
Yes.
And for the fence, it's not Pepco, Pepco is the
Right.
fence.
To clarify, there's gonna be two pieces of bidding. The first thing is this part with the scoping of the ducts.
Mhm.
Initially, it's gonna be done at the, within the amount that the general manager controls, because we have to get an idea of what we're looking at when they go down the shaft. And Skylar's gonna be with us when it's done, up on the roof, looking at this thing. And then we're gonna figure out what's wrong. We're gonna go to a place that has been already done that doesn't work right and see if it really is clear, if the shafts are really done right. Okay. Now, that's the first step. Now, if that's successful and Skylar figures out what they have to do in terms of maybe devising new scoops or whatever they have to do to the shaft or cleaning out, then that will go to contract as a capital project to do all of the ducts, all of the vents. So that's one thing, okay? And that's gonna have its own, that's gonna have money tied to it. Then the Pepco piece is on top of that.
Right, yeah.
Next item in my management report is an Irene update. Unfortunately, I don't have much of an update on Irene. Sandy put a lot of contractors from our outer boroughs at a standstill, even from getting the suppliers. So there were one or two people who were scheduled during that time frame that have been contacted and rescheduled. The bulk of the remaining Irene residents who have damage from Irene is currently on hold at their request. They don't want to deal with it right now, it's the holidays, and we'll make the repairs when they're ready for us.
Can I ask something, please?
Sure, I'm sorry, Doug.
Well, Russell, could we just go back one minute to the BMS thing? There's something I don't quite understand. I thought that is the BMS system basically to regulate the heat distribution throughout our complex?
It's a component of the BMS.
That's a component?
Yes.
Okay. So it does other things besides that?
Correct, it could regulate the fans as we're discussing now, the event fans.
Okay, so just the part of the BMS system that regulates the distribution of heat, presumably in some uniform fashion, is the operation of that part of the system completed, or is it impeded because these other phases haven't been done?
Well, yeah, it is, yes, I do. It is completed, however, there are in the phase 4, phase 5, there are additional controls that can help regulate the current steam system as it is now. As it stands now, it is fully functional. It is up and running, it's functional, it's controlling our valves. There are other phases to increase the efficiencies of that system.
What's affecting BMS right now? What's affecting the BMS right
That
now?
was my next question.
Yes, and that's why I'm gonna answer. I saw it in your
I was
eyes.
trying to lay the
and I knew-
number for that cross-examination.
Right.
You were.
All right. So, what's affecting the BMS system now, the optimum operation of the BMS system, is the roofs that are not completed on 3 buildings. That's affecting the whole environment of our campus. until those roofs are insulated, we will not have that really delicate control over the BMS, so we can really control the lines perfectly, because we have to keep a certain amount of juice going in here, otherwise we can screw up the whole system for everybody, as adverse to, you know, just, it may be a little warm now, it's never been as, it hasn't reached the heat that we used to have when we didn't have control. But if we get this insulation on, it should make quite a bit of difference. We should start seeing difference.
I understand that, but I did not understand whether, in addition to that problem, we simply had not completed the part of the BMS that should be regulating the heat. So if our roofs were completed and completely insulated and that job is done, we should expect that the BMS.
Better heat control. Now, I wanna clarify that as well. Better meaning, comfort temperatures is individual to the individual person, you know. Some people can be very uncomfortably warm at 72 degrees. Some people may feel very cold. We do not have the ability to individualize an apartment, to give you 80 and somebody else 70. You know, it's the esteem line for a whole line of apartments that we try to regulate and balance. First and foremost to city code. Second, to the extra level the board voted in, I believe, a year ago, bringing the base temperature during the day up to 70 degrees. So that's the point we try to make. Currently, as Larry said, with the 3 roofs that are uninsulated right now, we're providing extra heat in those 3 buildings to try to supplement the top floor people. So people on the lower floors, yes, unfortunately right now you are being slightly overheated. But we're trying to help our residents on the top floor who are extra cold and being affected by that.
Okay, we're up to the garbage solution. Right?
Yes. The garbage solution. We just open discussions with our attorney for our use of the loading dock area at MedFood. Douglas actually asked in an email if we could go back to him and not only ask is it just in black and white legally okay, but to ask the question, since they already have had use of it for a while, what are the other legal ramifications that may do? So I have that question out to Dean right now. I don't have an answer exactly for that as we stand right now. So just to summarize this is the removing where the greenhouse is now and setting up a compactor system and a recycling system in the MedFood parking area. Redoing the gates and that whole corner lot to accommodate all of our waste needs.
Do they know,
Including-
by the way, does MedFood know?
No, they don't. At this point, they don't know.
And by the way, including composting, right?
This is a new addition that just came up, and I have a correction that was written in the report. I attributed the composting, gathering of the materials from, to the grounds committee. Members of the grounds committee, as well as other committees, other volunteer shareholders were involved in providing information about composting. So in addition, we're looking to set up a composting area in there. And I didn't mean,
Not in the same location, though.
in that general area, if
It
possible.
has to be where sanitation will pick up.
I think, yeah, I think the arrangements that will be considered what else, but it's not part of the trash, it's not.
It's gotta be.
No, right, it's not part of
It's
the
not gonna
trash,
be in the
but-
trash,
Yeah.
it's in that location.
Well, is that, that's not the way I
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
is under consideration, I mean.
This
the whole
was
point
actually
is-
very, very new information. It just came across to us.
We're having sanitation come and speak to us, because sanitation is responsible for taking out the composting.
But the whole point is that you're not taking it out composting.
No, yes, we are.
No, the whole point is using the compost for high quality.
What was
dirt.
sent to me by that's not true at all, and we have members of the committee here, and what was sent to me, and that's why it was turned over to the sanitation, is that this is a sanitation issue in terms of removing the composting to a bigger site, just as they have been doing every Sunday when they carry their small containers up to Columbia. It doesn't get used here. So at some point, you can go to that site and take the compost back. No, that's not the
It
thing?
has to be tested. Whatever they do, anyone who uses compost, if it were to be used here, the quality of it has to be tested for
Right.
what's in it. So you can't just take this compost and throw it around. It's a whole process.
Right.
So I don't think what the sanitation department is doing now, I don't think it's available for sale for people
Right.
at this point.
Right. But it is, the directions that were given to me, because I asked for all the information. And once I saw that sanitation was involved, I turned it over to Tom Gerbino and to Russell, because now sanitation is involved, and that's part of, and it's a pickup issue. Yes?
So just, maybe, I don't think this needs to be decided right now, I think we're exploring different options. But what I would say is, I think the philosophy that went into this was more of a kind of a volunteer basis. I think the philosophy was very different. So what I would just say is, it should definitely be considered as part of that overall solution. The location of it might not need to be decided right now. We might not need to be emphatic about it right now, because I think it might be helpful to get input from people who are instrumental in setting this up.
That's fair.
So
But for the overall solution of sanitation
Yeah,
as a
that's
concept.
Whether it goes
Well,
into that corner, I think, is probably
That
not
could be up
to
for
be decided
discussion.
right
Well,
now.
Mike, are you talking about the composting or,
Yes.
or the?
No, the composting, I'm just saying that it's not to be lumped together. I don't think the intent was for it to be lumped together as part of the trash solution. So that's,
Okay. Jeanette?
Okay, with respect to the effect on Met Supermarket, you know, we should sort of assess, I mean, I agree with Doug, when I was reading Dean Roberts' email, I thought it wasn't complete. You know, I mean, the lease, basically, there's a portion of the lease that says that the ground floor, full service, first class supermarket, open to the public, basement, ancillary storage only with no public access, and yada, yada, yada. It could be that the use and enjoyment of the space that they rent from us depends on their ability to use it. It may not be black and white here in a lease, and we may have every legal right to just say, you don't have an easement here, you know, you don't have a right of way over this property, this is ours. But in the interest of, if we want to keep Met Foods as a tenant, and we want to ensure good relations, as John pointed out, with this tenant, we need to figure out what effect, what impact this is going to have on our relationship with Met Foods. And if we want to take it over anyway, we have to sort of also explore, you know, what exposure do we have to any potential liability if they bring a viable lawsuit. That's a question for Dean Roberts.
Right.
If they have a viable claim against us,
Which I agree.
Yeah,
I think it needs to be looked at.
needs to be supplemented.
Absolutely.
Following up on this, Met Foods, it's like, I'm looking at this
And
is
it's
our page 34, page 13 of the lease, 49, which they, council
What page are you
highlighted.
on?
Page 34 of our package.
13 of the
13 of the lease.
Got it.
It says, waste removed from the demised premises will be made directly into or from the demised premises via the service passage in the rear of the stores of the building. What is that? I don't understand that.
That's a very good question.
What section is it?
49.
The thing
49,
is
the one that's highlighted.
That's the building
Yeah.
lobby.
First of all, I think there's a side door on that building, and that's not gonna be blocked. They can remove their refuse, there's no issue about it. We're not blocking them off, we can't put this up against the passageway that's there.
I see.
This is gonna be away from the passageway.
Well, I thought the council did not seem to read that the way that.
Well, it's gonna be pointed out there now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be pointed out there now. All right, so that's the garbage solution right now. Sales and transfer, sir.
I think you-
No, I'm sorry, Doug, I apologize.
I realize that this thing on the agenda is about the possible Met Food conflict. I think, this is something we should revisit in closed session after we hear more from Dean Roberts. But I just wanna be clear about one thing here. I hope that the placement of the garbage solution thing is still something to be decided. I don't want, even though this is talking about putting it there where the Met Food loading dock is now and in that corner, I'd like us to be clear that the location of this thing is something that is still to be discussed.
The Systems and Structures Committee and Tom Gerbino and the sanitation are meeting regularly, and they're talking, and whatever they're gonna come up with will be the final thing. Our shareholders are involved.
Well, not final.
No,
we'll get to
what
review
we
it.
wanna do.
They're gonna,
Well,
but I mean, the issues will be final, then we'll come here. Go ahead, Dan.
That's, yeah, to that point, final is what we decide. And I think that, as they do this, I mean, maybe they could be encouraged to kind of like, not to kind of like, you know, narrow things down to a specific location and not see that there's other options that could be available. You know, let's see, you know, based on the footprints and all the other considerations.
There's a committee,
where
no one's
can-
stopping them.
Yeah, okay. But,
Okay,
you know,
well, come on, Larry, I'm just saying, I want the board to discuss the use of that, whatever you wanna call that space at the corner of Amsterdam and LaSalle, the loading dock there, whatever it is. That's something we gotta think about and discuss. And if it's possible for the garbage solution mechanism to be placed, say, where the green thing is now, then, you know, we can at least make a reasoned decision about what do we wanna do with that corner piece of property. That's my concern.
All right, well, when they come to us with the report, we'll let you know.
yeah, that's it.
Go ahead.
To clarify, all of this is in very, very early stages. The proposals for the compactors were just received. It's not 100% in stone, but it's in the discovery phase right now. Absolutely, the committee has to come to the board for a final decision at some point in time. I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to discuss this and on how.
And sanitation is involved, and our shareholders are involved. There's no question about it. Okay, sales and transfer?
I got related. Since we're cracking this issue open about the use of this space, can we ask Dean Roberts, you know, like, if we wanted, I mean, if we wanted to build on that space, can we, you know, given the considerations of net fruit and everything else? You know,
We can ask him anything you want, Dan, but I'd like to know where you're getting the money from to build on that spot.
Larry, why, this is the money maker, not actually the money spender, and there's
It's a
lots
money
of
spender
ways-
until you can make it.
There's lots of ways that you can earn revenue out, you know, that doesn't include the shareholders' pockets, and this might be one that we might wanna consider, okay? And, you know, to shut down the conversation right now.
I'm not shutting it down.
Like, where are you gonna get the money?
I'm asking you
is
a
not
question.
productive.
I would like for you, when you come to the board with that suggestion, to tell us where we get the money from.
The first-
To put, just a second, let me give you the parameters, and then you can come up with the answer at the next board meeting, because we're not making a decision today. I want you to come back, instead of saying this thing over and over, and tell us what you know about the real estate, how to get the money, how to put it into that spot, how to get a tenant to go into it so we don't lose our shirt building that thing. And then that might help everybody here make a decision, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
The sales and transfer report, I don't have necessarily any comments, but could feel any questions if the board had anything in their package. Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct.
This is the latest?
The sales and transfer report in your packet was missing the first page. She identified it, thank you, Chief. So we want to make sure everybody has that as part of the
Yeah, I was
package.
thinking, why it's so short? That's just, yeah, there's no really more. Yeah, thank you.
Next item on my management report is just a quick update on where we are with the fine and fees for violation of House rules. We've been working with the chair of the House Rules Committee, Jerry Wolbert. He was away for the last 2 months, so in December, he's working on something to put together for the board consideration by December.
Elsewhere.
We'll work with him and support him in any way possible. I also want to bring up in this world of whether it's a House rules or even the amending of alteration agreements as well. This is something off topic, not in my report. It's coming up as heat as an issue too recently, when people receiving the proper amount of heat. We've learned that some people have had renovations in their apartments where they have covered the convectors underneath the windows with some kind of plywood or something to make it more decorative. By doing so, you're impeding the natural heat in your apartment. It's not meant to be covered, it's meant to have an airflow, that's what keeps your apartment warm. By doing alterations of this nature, and then like in the summer and then sometimes in the winter, you're calling management that you're too cold, you've actually covered your heating source in one way or another. So we're gonna look into not only as discussing it as part of a House Rules amendment with Jerry, but also definitely change in the alteration agreement on how people are allowed to configure their apartments in Morningside.
I don't think that's quite the way it is. I think that before we had BMS, people were getting their apartments blasted with heat, and they were not putting things over their convectors because it was pretty. They were doing it because they didn't want to send all this heat out the window and have the windows open all the time. So I feel very sympathetic to shareholders who had to renovate because they had too much heat. Now we finally have control of the heat, and now they have to re-renovate. I'm not saying I think we should pay for them to re-renovate, but I do feel terrible for the people being crushed under the wheels of progress.
You understand that there's a lot of people about too little.
Well, some of those people with too little heat have insulation in their connectors.
I have to tell you, John, the person we're talking about is on the 7th floor in a line. No one above them complained and no one below them complained. The temperature in the apartment was 68 degrees. It could have been a lot warmer, but it couldn't come out because there was no opening in the grill to allow it.
Oh, okay, I won't go.
Oh, okay. All right. I just thought I'd clarify that. Okay. So, let's go. Jane, I'm sorry.
One suggestion, since you know the reason now, so maybe for the sales and transfers committee, when they talk to the new shareholders, when they do the renovation, you remind them now to allow.
Oh, correct, and also management is, they have to run their alteration
They have to get
report.
approved.
They have to get their alterations approved by management too.
I see.
So as it stands now, there's no direct language addressing this issue, but it's something we discovered, it's something that I think needs to be addressed.
Okay, capital projects.
Okay, capital projects, the roof installation stages. Building 80 LaSalle, the permanent installation is currently being installed. We're expected about 3 weeks from now to have the permanent installation down on 80 LaSalle. 70 and 501s, building 4 and 5. We just actually got the approval as well for the building 5, for the, I'm sorry, is it building 4 or 5? Four. So both at this point have been approved. We're looking at about 4 weeks to have the temporary installation with plywood down as per the new site safety plan. So we're cutting it very close. I do understand people are uncomfortable, but we are addressing it as quickly as possible. Another issue that is in the works as well is tiebacks. I think we may have discussed this, or the board may have discussed it before. It's permanent anchor points placed on the roof for all future drops or scaffolding drops. As it stands now, without these tiebacks installed on the roof, they literally have to cut open a section of the roof, anchor into the slab, re-insulate, re-waterproof, and
You probably want to say structures on the roof as opposed to on the roof.
right, correct. Structures on the roof. So by us looking at this issue and possibly recommending to the board in a future date could solve future problems when we have to do pointing and brickwork on the building.
The question, will this have an effect on the project completion date for,
No.
removing the sidewalk bridging or anything like that? Is that
No,
gonna have
this
any
would
effect
be,
on-
no, this will be a separate project. It's actually on a, if it were eventually approved, it could be done on a roof that's already completed with the sidewalk bridge removed. It's within the perimeters of a roof.
And related note, the minutes reflect that building 2 sidewalk bridging they're anticipating bringing it down by December.
Yes,
I assume that building 1 will be before then.
correct.
We're gonna know tomorrow.
They were actually, I have a note here, it wasn't in my report. Building 1 was already scheduled to come down and building 2 was scheduled for December. I hate putting so much emphasis on Sandy, but Sandy really messed up the Department of Buildings in New York City. Not only are they just generally behind as per every day, as the norm, Sandy with all of their issues really put them back probably 4 weeks minimum. So we're at a point now where building 1, the architects have signed off, the contractor's telling the Department of Buildings, we're done, come and give us the approval. We haven't had that site inspection yet. We're
Referencing what JMA recommended, JMA recommended getting permission to remove the sidewalk bridging, something like putting it in, requesting permission 4 weeks ahead of when we're scheduled. to-
Correct.
So that's what you're referencing now?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
the request for building 1 has already been put in.
Okay.
I'll verify tomorrow. I believe 2 was put in, but I'll verify that tomorrow at tomorrow's local law meeting.
The request was put in. They were supposed to, the EOB was supposed to come here and say, okay, it looks right, it fits, take it down. They never got here. We had a little problem called Sandy that threw everything out of whack, every single thing. Chief,
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the tiebacks, because in your report saying that you contacted like the management and the JMA contacted that company, is
Yes.
that the company Will do the tieback?
It's an engineering firm, they would do the design and the
I see.
drawings for it.
Okay.
They're the only, from what we understand, they are the only company that is doing the
That's doing
drawings for
that.
tiebacks. The only
In the
company.
city?
Yeah.
Because we checked that with JMA.
Cutco
The
George
only
said that's
company.
the only engineers that's doing it now, even JMA, who's big in the industry, said that's the only guy who's doing it.
And this guy is not in a rush, obviously, because we've been waiting 4 weeks to get him to do this, so we'll get there. Andy, you're next.
So Larry, you said we'll know on Friday whether the scaffolds,
Tomorrow.
sidewalk bridging, sorry, tomorrow. So you think we'll know, they might show up, they might say something, what is the certain?
No, we'll know what the status is of the bridging tomorrow, because Brent will report at the local 11 meeting.
I was thinking, we'll know, the big decision is with the Department of Buildings. The Department of Buildings is going to tell us
Right.
whether they're up for
Well,
another year or whether they're going down.
We'll know tomorrow if the DOB came, or when the DOB will come, and then we'll have an answer. I'm not saying we'll know
We're not
that
gonna
it's
have an
a date
answer
coming
tomorrow,
down.
we'll know whether we might have an
We'll have a
answer.
we'll have a status update tomorrow.
Great.
Okay, okay. Well, we're doing fine.
Can we have an
Dan?
email about that?
Huh?
Can you send an email?
Absolutely.
They're supposed to be a monthly.
We have a.
Alfred attends these meetings with me as a board representative.
There's supposed to be a monthly
questions.
report on the status of finishing. Russell said last month that he's going to report to shareholders regarding as phases and local law 11 projects are scheduled to finish.
Yeah,
Right,
Am I right?
yeah.
so, we'll have a report. Hopefully we'll have a report tomorrow.
On, two questions. First, how often is JMA supposed to, are they supposed to come to every meeting?
Yes, they come to every meeting.
They didn't, it looks like they didn't come to one of them.
They were not in the minutes of the,
They did,
October
they're
10th.
due to vacations, they, I believe,
Right here.
no, one, they didn't, they missed completely. The second one, he said one of his representatives. So there was one that they did miss, I believe, completely.
He doesn't get paid for it.
What?
He doesn't get paid.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't add value, that's the point.
Yeah, but, you know.
But that's, it's not like, you know, okay, show up when you wanna show up.
No.
I mean, we want him here so we can keep
That's
things
right.
going and.
Absolutely.
So, what's the status on the boiler room?
The boiler room?
Temporary boiler room.
Oh, absolutely. Well, a few things about the boilers. We contacted the company, we wanted to have the boilers removed, obviously. The south pipe scaffolding built up on building 4 was put in place after the temporary boilers and the oil was put into place. Where it is now, they're unable to make this turn. So we had to wait for them to finish all of the work on the balconies on that south facing side. I met with Anna last week, Cutco George. The punch list was done, it was nominal, the repairs, the final touch-ups that Brent had to do. It was expected to start coming down by the beginning of next week. So we're shooting and hoping for December 1st, having the pipe scaffolding out of the way, opening up the sidewalk bridge and allowing the boiler company to come and get their boilers out. Additionally, we're also aware that we have our oil purchased in the oil tank itself. No, we're gonna recover that. We're gonna have that recovered.
So you know, everything's been separated. We've disconnected from everything. They're sitting there waiting to go out.
So
So
we're paying $20,000 a month for them.
you can't get them out till you get down these.
Right, we
scaffolding.
actually had this, this was a lengthy discussion with Cutco George and Brent. It would have, they were looking at probably about a 2-week delay to take, they could have taken on the whole pipe scaffolding, opened it up, they would have to rebuild the pipe scaffolding all the way back up the side of the building to finish their work. At that point, when that discussion happened, they were at the 4-week mark, I believe, saying, at the beginning of November, saying by the beginning of December, they should have everything completed and remove the pipe scaffolding with no worries. So the call was made to deal with it, basically.
Did you have your hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
And I think, then you sent out an email, just, that the city is trying to find these temporary boilers to put up in areas where there's been damage from Hurricane Sandy. So was there anything that we could do with the city where we could kind of help defray some of these
Well,
costs?
actually, to be honest, I called Mobile Steam, the company that has the boilers here. I invited the owner of the company to come on site with me, with Tom, with our staff, and bring his driver, to see if there's any way possible they could wench this and pull these the boilers out without moving the pipe scaffolding.
Just moving the bridging on the right side.
Right, just opening up the bridging.
Maybe what I'm,
So-
so maybe not that aspect of it, but just that if we then get it to a place, if we give this up and get it to a place where it's in, where the city's in need of a boiler, if it can be compensated, like if there's any way to kind of defray the cost of $20,000 per month, because clearly they're in high demand. So is this something that?
No, not really. It's an independently owned business. It's the business owner's prerogative on how he rents it or does it once he pulls it out of here.
And he's an interesting character. I can tell you a story when we go to closed session. You'll find it most amusing.
Because I know there were big shortages everywhere, just for the.
Right, right. I mean, I even had colleagues from Cooper Square calling me that knew we had mobile boilers here, if they could get their hands on it. And unfortunately, there's no way that they could get them
We
out.
have one more, RPZ, right?
Correct. The capital projects, the last one on my agenda, this is the RPZ project. All submittals were received from the plumber and approved by the engineer. We were just looking for a scheduling date. I wanted the plumber to meet with our maintenance staff just to ensure what this is going to mean for shareholders, what building water shutdowns may have to occur to install the RPZs in the locations we need. I don't think it's going to take a full building shutdown or in any location. However, there might be a pressure loss. So we want to determine exactly what the effects would be on shareholders.
Maybe this comes as a result of me missing the last meeting or so, but what is our
An RPZ it's the device that comes on the water inlet from the city that allows the water to flow in one direction into our building, but it doesn't allow water to flow back into the city's water supply.
You might know it as a check valve.
Okay, so we need new ones or?
Yes, this was a project that was scoped by Skylar, I believe it was last year. And a month or two ago, the package was provided to the board, and the board voted to approve the, I think it was $30,000 for 4 valves, 4 separate locations.
We-
I must have missed that one.
You have to, the city of New York requires us to keep all our water within our grounds and not put our water into their grounds. This way, if there's a poison in our wells, it can't go
Right, we
anywhere
can't
else. I mean, it
contaminate
could be,
cities.
that's how it really works, is to keep everything, clean.
Just to finalize my manager report, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One more second. 2 things. I want to address the Sandy on how our staff and the building staff really came together and the preparedness for Sandy, the people who actually stayed overnight, the cleanup afterwards, was the support from security. Everything was truly, truly amazing, and I met with them this morning and thanked them. But I want to publicly thank them in front of the board as well as shareholders on the amazing job these guys did during that very, very troubling time. It could have been a lot worse, and I'm very grateful it wasn't. On a final note, I want to, this is I guess more of a personal matter. Over the last 3 weeks, with the storm, budget season, board preparation, I know I am behind on contacting some shareholders and or committees on certain items that are still pending on my table. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to address them as quickly as I would like to. Just want to let everyone know that we're getting through this portion, we're running into Thanksgiving, and I will catch up with everyone very shortly. So, thank you for your patience for bearing with me if I have not responded to you timely as I normally would have.
Okay, so we're now at the treasurer's report. Now, just so we understand the ground rules, the treasurer's report is not dealing with the budget. The treasurer's report will deal with what it has to deal with, and you have it in your packet. We will then go to the budget. At that time, we'll discuss the budget and whatever else we have to discuss about it, okay? Andy, you're on.
Well, this year's budget, I'm sorry, I didn't even bring my notes, but, the status of this year's budget is quite good. The fuel deficit is now down to something like 300,000, which is 500,000 at its worst, so that's kind of miraculous that they got that much better. And the sense of the committee and everyone on it is that our operating budget this year is in good shape, and we're projected, I believe, well, we didn't discuss that, but we're in good shape, and it looks nothing like a deficit. So what's more interesting is what the committee spent more time on, which is on your paper here, which is a motion passed by the finance committee. And so I guess I read this and that becomes a motion put to the board.
And it's seconded already, but we got the first sentence and just write move.
Moved,
That.
move that the finance committee recommends the board pass the following. The monthly resident parking rates be increased to the following: LaSalle Outdoor, $176, these are all monthly. Broadway Roof, $162. Broadway Garage, $251. LaSalle Garage, $268. And that the transient parking rates be increased to the following: after 2 hours, $13.74. Up to 6 hours, $16.84, and up to 24 hours, $29.47. And that these increases be implemented on January 2013 with no further parking rate increases for 2013.
I think there's something missing there. Implement on January 1, 2013, or or when approved by the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Or as soon as approved, yes,
Right.
that's somehow did get.
Yeah, just so we're clear, because you can't institute until you get the okay. So it's been seconded because it comes from the Finance Committee. Do you wish to speak to this, Mr. Treasurer?
I do. I'll try to be quick, but, I just want to sum up, well, these numbers for the hourly transit rates are so weird because there's a tax applied on top of them, and once you apply the tax, it comes out to dollars, so our staff doesn't have to do pennies and nickels or any change. So these changes are basically for the residents, $20 to $35 a month, which is equivalent, if we say an average maintenance is $1,000, it's something like a 2 to 3% maintenance increase. It'll bring in $110,000 annually and more income, which is equivalent to something like a 1% maintenance increase for everybody. So the Finance Committee, the consensus, oh, by the way, this was passed unanimously by the Finance Committee special meeting on parking rates. The consensus is that parking is a subsidized amenity. So there was some disagreement about that, but the consensus is a subsidized amenity and continuing going forward. But relevant to prices in the surrounding lots and garages, the 40% of apartments that benefit from this subsidy should cover a bit more of their expenses. It's far from a profit center. The parking lot is not making us money. We are subsidizing those spots. So the first attempt was at the October normal Finance Committee meeting with much larger increases, and it narrowly failed. So we formed a subcommittee. John Kapner was the chair. Other members were Gabriel Solomon, John Viscarello, Dan Lowenstein, and the treasurer, that would be me. We surveyed the local comparables, which, by the way, are far less convenient to use because they're not on site, they're not within our security zone. Some people might not like walking around the neighborhood in the early morning. So there's a benefit to having parking on site that it's not quantifiable. So just being, not even excluding zip code 1025, just 10027, there were 10 lots to our north and 2 to our south. And you have to add tax, so basically the comparable I'm doing here is what would it cost for a resident here to park there? And so you have to add 18.375% to the posted price. Actually, Gabe went down to 122nd Street where they took $50 and just talked to them and they said, well, we'd give it to you for $300, not $350. That's taken into account in our numbers. So the comps are the average, once again, 10 north of us, 2 south of us, is $237 for an outdoor spot, $307 for an indoor spot. So an outdoor spot, compared to the prices we have right now, you pay 70% more to go in the neighborhood, and you pay 30% more for an indoor spot. So the proposed prices are, the comparables are, you now pay 40% more to go to an outdoor spot and just under 20% more to go to an indoor spot. So the difference is it costs you $68 more for an outdoor spot to go to the neighborhood and $47 more in an indoor spot to go in the neighborhood. So this was passed unanimously in the subcommittee as well as in the full committee. And that's it.
What's the, and did you calculate the average increase for monthly resident parking rates? What is the average of this increase?
The average is, well, I mean, it's between
It
about,
depends, it's 25% for the LaSalle
yes,
outdoor.
Yeah, I mean,
check on my
that's so-
spreadsheet.
Yeah,
My
15.
spreadsheet has got a lot of numbers on it, and so the absolute increase ranges from $19.70 to $34.50.
Chief?
So the average of those is,
Yeah.
25 or something.
Chief?
Yeah, when the finance committee has the parking special, rate regarding that meeting, I was absent because I was at the tennis tax committee. I made a proposal because I agreed to increase the parking rates. But I think, the second one, when the finance committee passed, it's better than the first one when they proposed. But still, my point is, I gave out the spreadsheet. My point is, after this increase, and it is still not so equivalent for each of the parking spaces to be lower than the average outside parking space. Because like this year, even though we are still, every parking spaces are still under the average parking space outside the Morningside, but the increase, after the increase, you see the regarding the parking locations, Broadway roof is 31% lower than the average outside parking. And then LaSalle outdoor is 25% lower than the outdoor parking average. And then Broadway indoor parking after the increase, Andy just mentioned, is 18% lower. And then down below LaSalle indoor, it's 12% lower. So I think what our goal is, we can go with this year, it's better than the one before, like the current one we are paying. But I think next year we should try to have, after the increase, all the parking spaces should be close to a certain percentage, which is all like 10% lower than the average. And then the following year, you can raise another one. So it comes to be equivalent, fair for all places parking. That's why I gave a 2-year calculation, and then at the end of the 2 year will be better. But if since the finance committee already passed this fund, that's fine. But I will vote with this motion. I will abstain. I will not vote for it. I will not vote against it, because I just want to make sure that later on we should fix this rate difference. So all the parking should be like, not 1 year you can't do it, but for the next year or next 2 years you can reach that every places is approximately same like to the same percent to other averages. That's
Dan?
my goal.
No, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Andy, I apologize, I read the list wrong.
This is responding.
I'm getting older.
This is something I left out, and I maybe went on too long already, but it's something we explicitly took into account, which is, the subcommittee took into account, and the committee went along with it, which is that the Broadway roof is not as attractive to people. The list for the LaSalle outdoor is longer, and we thought, so we're not quite capitalists here, but we do understand that we basically appreciate market forces, and we thought that if something is more desirable, it should cost a little more. So that's why we increased the outdoor roof more than we increased the LaSalle. And so that flies in the face of saying all outdoor spots are the same. It says more desirable spaces cost more than less desirable spaces. And in the reverse sense, we made the garage places closer in cost, because right now we reduce the discrepancy between the Broadway garage and LaSalle garage. I think there is a value. People in the Broadway garage, there's a person there. He's not a security guard, but there's a person, and it gives people. Sorry, the LaSalle garage. It gives you a feeling of safety to have a live person there, and so I would argue that it should be a little more expensive than the other one. But some people are maybe highly introverted and they don't want to see people, and so maybe they would prefer to have the Broadway garage.
Okay?
On the floor.
No, Dan was right. John, did you?
Yeah, I just have.
Yeah, sure.
Do we plan to raise these rates as she is suggesting every year?
Personally, I have no master plan. I hope this is the last year I'm the treasurer. I have no plans for beyond this year. I will be on the board next year.
And
but I have
just
no
when he's
plans.
nailed the job. I have nothing. I don't know. I'm trying to get through
One
this
year
year.
at a time.
1 year at a time. There'll be a new committee next year. There'll be a new president. What do I know?
I just want to get people on record. We don't, our goal is not to raise this next year. Is that right?
That's what the thing says.
I don't think
By
there's,
2030.
Oh, you mean this coming year?
Yeah.
Well, look, the motion says that.
Yeah, it says there's nothing
They
to-
go in 2014.
You talking about 2014?
2014.
I don't know, I couldn't think. 2013, we know we're not raising. All right, having no further discussion, we're going to a vote? We're going to a vote. Maitri, you're having committed time. We're going to a vote. All in favor of this resolution?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you.
And one abstention. Correct, Chief? One abstention. Done. Okay, we are now up to the main event. Russell, would you begin that, please? I think there was a movie too with Barbara Streisand, the main event. It's a much funnier thing than they're doing. Okay. This is the one.
Yes, and I'll explain why, yes.
It's just you.
Well,
So,
wait.
Very good.
Dan, did you get, okay? Jeanette?
We need more, please. I hope you brought.
We got it, right? We're good? We're good. Okay. Russell, you're in.
all right, last evening, we met with the finance committee and reviewed the third draft at that point in time of the budget. Management was tasked to look at 3 specific areas to address. So these are the 3 areas that would have changed from the version we received in the original board package and what we just received right now as part of the handout. The first one was the management fee. We did review the contract and there was a 2.5% increase that is effective as of February. So I did it on the 11-month calculation and that number has changed in this budget that's in front of you. The second number, they're also highlighted in gray as well, if you didn't see it on the on there. The second item, I'll leave the best one for last. The energy was the last one. There was another item. Oh, the contingency. The original budget did not call for $100,000 of contingency. The committee felt it was very necessary for us to maintain that $100,000. So we first sat down with the third draft, which was calling for a 4.22%. After some discussions, the percentage jumped up to, I think it was slightly over 5%. 5.01, slightly over 5%. At that point in time, the one area that's been very difficult to nail down was energy. The committee tasked management to go back and discuss and verify what our projections are with energy. On the last page of the handout I gave everyone is the backup documentations, and I'll give a quick overview of how I utilize this information. It's based on 2010 and 2011, full year 2010 and half year of 2011. This is where I based the usage, especially when it came to gas usage. This is all because at the second part of 2011 and all of 2012, we were on temporary boilers burning oil. It's it's not a realistic view of what we should be burning as of energy. And of course, we're burning the wrong type of fuel, which was oil at a more expensive rate.
And it was an unusual winter as well.
And it was unusual winter as well. So using 2010 as a base and 2011, the first 6 months, what I did was, for the first 6 months of 2011, was all on gas. So you had the 2 winter months, then you had spring and summer. I literally mirrored that for the second half of the year, for the second 6 months, to give me a baseline of the usage. At that point, Dan sent me the information last night, which was invaluable in helping me put this together, because it would have been a lot more difficult for me to go back to every invoice and bill from Con Ed and Hess to figure out all these numbers. So Dan, thank you very much for that. The bottom line comes out to, we're looking at, our projection is $430,000 of oil expenses and $1.2 million of gas for 2013 is our current projection.
Total gas and oil, we'd say.
Total gas and oil combined is 1.637.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is approximately $100,000 than the third version of the budget. So, in essence, we basically had an opportunity to cover the increase, the request to put the extra $100,000 back into contingency. So this version in front of you now is calling for a maintenance increase with the shareholders at 4.41%, budget to budget.
So, the bottom line is you revised down last night's energy number by $100,000.
Approximately a little over 100,000, yes.
Dan, you had something you wanted to bring to our attention tonight, right?
I did. I did?
I thought you did.
I'm just trying to digest the numbers. I mean, I think it's
Take
a
your
little
time.
hard since we're,
Is there something you want to ask now? Or are you still thinking on it?
no, so, okay, so looking at, I'm sorry, so this third table here is essentially, I mean, it says 2011, but essentially this is like,
The bottom table, you mean? You're talking about the
Oh,
bottom
sorry,
table.
right. The dates are still 2011, right?
so it's,
It should be 2013.
and I think, I'm not seeing it anywhere where we spent $300,000 on fuel in 1 month. I mean, even in 2010 was a severe winter, and that was when we kicked into the oil use a bit. And that's when we had, that we were spending $200,000 in gas at $12 $12.5 a unit. So,
Right, and let's see, in 2010, January was 206,000, in January 2011 was 225,000
That's gas and oil. It's giving you
Gas
gas and
and
oil numbers.
yeah.
combined.
And that's right, that's the oil, January 2011 was, when we were on the temporary also.
No, January 2011, I don't believe you were on temporary yet.
Yeah.
You didn't jump on temporary until July.
July. Remember we looked it up last night?
2011.
Yeah, no, we're in 2012. We didn't start taking down the chimney until July. That's what it said.
Okay, right.
In the middle table, there's the darker line, and you can see the division. That's literally the division of where the temporary boiler came in.
So,
This is 2010, 2011, and then the last one jumps to 2013.
Correct.
So we're missing, we don't have.
Right, there's a little bar in the middle
It's an
where,
aberration. 2012.
2012 is not included.
So we're just.
right, I couldn't use it for any accurate
I just wanna make
predictions.
sure I'm getting it.
Right.
That's all.
Look,
Correct.
we won't know a real number on fuel until we have this normal winter, which they're predicting, and we actually have used our boilers for this whole time frame. And remember, we actually went on the boilers, our own boilers, at the beginning, just about the beginning of the heating season. I mean, we captured it. So we'll get a better picture of where we're gonna be by the time we come to the end of this cycle next year. And Russell will have a really good picture, because that's what we're gonna be charting, is how much is this fuel really costing us? But you gotta go with it, you gotta go with his gut.
Right, now I went with kind of worse, let's say, for example, just to kind of give someone a phrase, in January of 2010, if the gas usage was 15,000 decatherms, and 2011, it was 10,000 decatherms. I went with the worst of the two. I thought it would be better to err on that side and go with the higher, worst winter case scenario. So those are the numbers I literally dropped down for the usage with gas and oil into the 2013. Additionally, I added in, I believe it was a 5% or 10% bump in the gas cost after the contract expires in July for our fixed rate of 76 cents per therm.
You know how much gas we have in the tank? How much oil we have in the tank?
Full.
That could be recovered, that could.
It's a full tank.
That could offset some of this,
Yeah,
right?
that could be used to offset some of this.
So it's like $10,000 a tank, isn't it?
I don't know the size of that tank, but,
We don't, until it goes back in, there's two ways we're gonna get credit on this thing. Either they're taking it out and crediting it to us, and then it'll come back at no cost. That's one way it's gonna be affected, which of course skews everything that we're doing, but we can count that against what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
Or
that's all
they'll
we
take
can
it out
do.
and put it back immediately into our tanks, if our tanks are low enough to do that, but I
Yeah,
doubt.
I was just wondering if that was significant enough to.
well, in the grand scheme of things, if we're estimating the cost per gallon of oil next year at $3.75. So if it's a 10,000 tank, it's $37,000. Not a huge number to sway the estimates on energy.
Yes, Pine Tree.
Thank you. So just, so the, January 11 is 225, so that's that was an actual cost. So I'm just wondering between January 11 and January 2013, why it goes from 225 to 317? Because that's a pretty significant bump, like that's a pretty significant.
Right, like I was explaining, like, if I use the worst case scenario, so the amount of in the 2013 section, January 2013,
Yep,
the first line item under there is the DTH, that's decatherms,
okay.
right? 13,206 decatherms.
Yeah.
That was the highest rate used, if you go up to the top, in 2010. So that's the number I went with. I'm thinking between 2011 and 2010, we were gonna use, let me go with the higher rate usage and err on that side. Once the other calculations are tied in with it, it comes out just for gas around 164,000. I did the exact same thing with oil. So I looked at the 2010 January and the 2011 January and said, what's the worst case scenario with oil? And I dropped that number down. When you combine the two, it is a little high. I get that. It is high, but
I don't think I, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, wait, I can't. Doug.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead,
All right,
I think, I mean, I definitely get using like the heating days, I mean, like, going for like the most severe month, makes a lot of sense. But then I think you're double counting that though, then, because you're essentially counting all of the gas usage for 2010 and for that high month, plus this significant oil use, which we would never use both the most gas and the most oil for a single month.
correct. You know what? You're absolutely right. It is a worst case scenario that I'm going for.
I think it's
So
unrealistic.
there's other unknowns here that.
And even if we blew up the gas, even if we were back on the 10th in oil, we would only be using one source. So I think that you
Right, it's either
or the other.
either it's one or the other, but there are times where you're going to use both. Probably not to that level. Like you're right. We're not going to use both to that level for that particular month.
if, Dan,
Yeah.
you're right in what you're saying, Russell's right in what he's saying. The point is, we have to think of the effect on shareholders and our economy. If we don't budget for the worst case scenario now, because we have no real statistics to work from, then we're doing ourselves a
We
disservice.
do have statistics.
No, not for the system, not for the BMS system working full capacity, and our own boilers,
That's an error on the.
and our own boilers for an entire year, with the BMS system working with it. So until we know that, and until we know what kind of winter we're gonna be dealing with, it would be better to err on the side of conservatism and do it this way, just to protect everybody. That's all.
I mean, if you look at, like, you're singling out January as a particular month where it seems like an unreasonably high number. But if you look at the very next month, it's 144,000 as it compared to 2011 at 137,000 and 2010 at 171,000. So you know what? There is at some point it's going to balance out. We could scrutinize each individual month, but I think it's prudent that at least the thought process how I was working on this was pulling out the worst case in both, and that is how I pulled out the higher number in gas and the higher number in oil for January.
Are the energy costs the main, reason or the main justification for increasing the maintenance?
9% increase in taxes.
Right, the most significant one was probably taxes in water and sewer.
Taxes is about 65 to 70% of the total increase.
We have to cover the taxes are going up. Our account and their accountants all said, you gotta expect 9%, right? 9%?
Right, after the rebates, it's 13 something, after the rebates, it came down to about 9% overall with taxes. Water and sewer is projected to go about 8.5%. The two combined dollar-wise is approximately $500,000. Before we even look at any other expenses, just because we woke up this morning, water and sewer and taxes is projected to go up about $500,000 by next year.
Okay, where are we?
By the way, taxes are a third of our operating budget.
Well, that's one way. Andy, what are we up to?
Yeah.
Well, I can give the finance committee a motion at this point.
Well, I would like to address something then, before we do that, because I think we have to. There was a discussion last night, and we did not reach a conclusion, and it has to do with the donation. And we have to reach a conclusion on that, because we have to vote on it, or we have to do something. There was the finance committee, the original report to make it the same as last year. We put a number in just to hold the place this year. What did I say?
You didn't say anything, you just said
donation.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Donation to MRHS.
And we put in a placeholder number, which is not any number that anyone agreed to last night. So we have to decide what we're doing here.
And personnel.
So I guess I'll say what I did. So we left, there's a motion I'll introduce later, but the committee agreed that we wanted, the finance committee agreed that this is something worth looking into. So I sent around to everyone on the board, I hope you read your email today, the original letter for request to increase from 63,000 to 75,000 our annual support from Ron Bruno, the executive director. And he said that they need more money because they have larger space, and the next 10 years shows there will be more people in the 50 to 64 age group, and in the next 10 years the baby boomers will turn 60 to 70.
Did you submit a budget?
So that was his letter he sent me a month ago, and then so I sent him an email last night saying what I said the finance committee recommended that the board is going to consider the budget tonight, and the finance committee recommended that we reconsider, that we further review the MRHS justification for increasing their request by 20%. And his response to me was that the reason we're asking for additional support is that our space is expanded by 30%. We exchanged a studio apartment for a 2-bedroom apartment. With this added space comes cost increases in the following areas: programming, insurance, technology, including telephone system and computer network, office cleaning, office supplies. I hope this is helpful. Thank you for your consideration.
Did you submit a budget to you, right?
That was the entirety of his added justification for the 20% increase. So, as a person, as I'm sure you all read our email exchange this afternoon, or some of us did, I'm a person who spends a lot of my time, much more time than I wish. It's my least favorite part of my job. Writing proposals, reviewing proposals, looking at people asking for money and asking for money. And if I were the executive agency of a nonprofit on this property, and the treasurer of the corporation asked me to justify a 20% increase, I would at least provide a budget and say, here's where my money comes from, here's how much money I spend. Instead, I got this. And so I am not judging the merit of whether they need the money, but I think the case that I think Ron Bruno is doing a disservice to this agency, because he could have made a good case. He could have told us something about his budget, and he did not. And so I am not saying they don't deserve the money, but I don't see any justification for the request.
Well, I know, I just want to ask, I'm going to take a privilege of the chair. May I ask what he said about the funding level, what is required as a versus?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I left that detail out. So I did talk to him on the phone because he had not responded to my email request for information today. He didn't understand that that he needed to respond today. But he told me, so my question to him was, I've been told, my understanding, and which he confirmed, is that to get money from the government, in this case, he talked about the state, I did not ask him about the city. He said to get funding from the state, he needs 25% of what the state is providing to come from Morningside Gardens. And so the state is giving him now his MRHS $183,000, let's just round it to $184,000. And so 25% of that is $46,000. We're paying a third more than that again. So one might have read into his original letter that he needs more money to get the matching support from the state, and that's not at all the case.
Who's Dan? The Doug?
No, Mike.
No? Oh, Mike?
Doug, did you pass before?
Did I miss you?
Well, I don't have anything to say about
Okay.
this, so
So, Mike,
you can come back to me on that.
So, I think just a couple of things. One is, I think, just to give the benefit of the doubt, I don't think this is time to study the budget. I think it kind of been clearer that a budget is required. I think, when you asked for the information, so if we've been specific in terms of what was required, I think that would have been helpful. I think, I wouldn't cast aspersions on him as a director, because I think he has been successful in getting many hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of funding, so I think that I would pull back making judgment on him, because I think that that's unfair. In terms of the matching grants, I'm not really sure what percentage it is required, or what the stipulation is. I still
He
think
just told you, he just
I
gave you
know,
the number.
But I don't know if that's a complete,
We don't know anything about
but
that.
you're asking somebody on the phone, so this is what they're giving you off the cuff. I just feel like that there could be time to get a more comprehensive budget and more justification. Unfortunately, there isn't time. But what I did want to pass around right now was just the last, I think she had mentioned that typically there's an annual report. Unfortunately, I was looking to see if there's a budget in here, but there isn't. But one thing I think you failed to mention was that they went from serving about 3,000, having 3,000 visits to about 7,000 visits. So the program attendance
In the
for a
last
year.
10 years,
Yeah.
10 years.
But that, I don't know what the budget has increased over the last 10 years. My guess is it stayed pretty much the same. So if it has stayed $63,000 for, the past 10 years, it's asking for a whopping 20% more for, an extra, $12,000. I think that's, not unreasonable. So anyway, if anyone's interested in actually reading a little bit more about the organization, I'll pass this around. So, before we make perhaps a use.
You're after John.
John, you raised my issue about the thing. The annual report doesn't even have a budget in it.
No.
I said, I don't know.
It's just shocking to me that would be the case. We're giving them $65,000
My guess is it's an
and
additional budget,
there's
it's
no
an additional
budget in writing.
document that goes
And
with it.
I have to
Besides, everyone was given the chance to submit a budget. People were issued a notice from Andy a month ago, and they had the opportunity to submit a budget. It
We were
wasn't
told
like
by
you
the
guys
state.
yesterday
No,
to
no,
submit a
I
budget
sent out in
today.
September, the request went out in September.
So it's just surprising to me that an organization that we're giving tens of thousands of dollars to doesn't give us anything in writing in terms of any kind of budget. We changed the whole situation here where people asking for $2,000 and $3,000 to run a committee. We have control of that money, and then we're just going to hand over $65,000 to an organization without any kind of documentation. To me, seems very foolish.
Well, I mean, they're an integral part of Morningside Gardens. They've been that way for years. I don't think, also I agree with Mike, I don't think we should cast aspersions. Maybe he's not a budget guy. Maybe we could have gone and sat down with him. We get as much from them as they get from us. So when you say, oh, we just handed them money, I don't think that's all we do. I think a lot of people in this development, rely on them. I think they do good work. And do we think that they're spending their money unwisely?
I wish I knew what he was spending his money on. So I am sorry that I was, my wording was indelicate and I did not mean to cast aspersions. What I mean is that apparently he is raising money, he's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's great. I mean, and whatever he's doing to get those $100,000, he must be
And
doing
we're
his job
spending
very
it
well.
on for our
And
seniors.
he must be impressing
Yeah.
someone that he's spending the money well. He did not impress me that, because he wouldn't, everyone, and this is months, people were given months to put in a request. He did not give me what I
Yeah,
consider
but the
quantitative
notice was from Monday
explanation
to Tuesday.
of why. But no, I gave a request out to everyone
September.
in September saying, you have until November 1st to give me a request for next year. So
September.
I do not consider
Can I
this a
give an
serious
example of-
response.
Can I give an
No,
example of
no,
how fiscal?
not now.
All right,
Jeanette,
I'll
wait,
not.
Jeanette,
I think history with this, agency is important too. Like, I don't know what, in the past, what, MRHS has been required to submit to us, and whether or not this year's been different, or more exacting, or what have you. But, I mean, I agree with John, I mean, it's a naturally occurring retirement community, that's what we are. And we're that, in large part, I think, because of MRHS. So, rather than being confrontational or adversarial or more exacting this year than we have been in years past, assuming that's the case, you know, I think this is a special case, and I think it might be warranted that, you know, a little more effort on our part to get those numbers might be warranted. That's just my 2 cents.
okay, I'm prepared to entertain a motion as to what the dollar value should be, because I think we should discuss that value. Is anyone going to make a motion as to what the dollar value should be? Anybody?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Machi.
What was the requested amount for 75, whatever that?
70,000 is.
No, no,
No, no, no.
Seventy-five.
He
He
asked-
requested 75.
That's the motion.
Increase that.
To increase, yeah, to increase the, I'm sorry, I'm horrible making motions, but to increase the whereas, whatever.
The donation
Thank
to,
you, to the requested amount, which is $75,000.
is there a second to that motion?
Is that from?
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, from
I'm-
62,000 to 75,000.
I'm trying to hear. Is there a second to this motion? Okay, there's now a second to the motion. Now we can discuss it. You made it, you get first.
So just to give an example of how they're spending the money, so I'm on part of the dining committee, and so there's a holiday party, every year there's a holiday party, and we have about 200 guests who come, so this is seniors, there, you know, there's kids, there's a bunch of, you know, it's open to a lot of the folks who actually often have no other party to go to for the year. The budget is $1,000. So in $1,000, we're feeding 200 people. The decoration is done by volunteers. The work is done by volunteers. There's a lot of food that's donated through our local establishment, and that's how frugally we're spending money. Under $1,000 in that budget, we're feeding 200 people. So.
Chief?
Yeah, I just want to make a few points. I think since I have been the treasurer for a few years, and then I think MRHS around really knows what our budget request is. Every year when I was the treasurer at our class, annual report and then their budget and then their funding sources. So he could have provided you with the same.
And by the way, it was the same letter that you've sent.
Yeah, it
was
should be
okay.
the same.
I sent out the same
Yeah,
letter that the
right,
previous
yeah.
treasurers had
So
sent out.
he should have known. I think I remember one year the MRHS's, what's the committee, executives or the board, they even provide a budget. There's a line by line of what they're, yeah, I'm not saying that they are really a critical part of Morningside, but I think what they request is about 19%. For the year, than last year, it's a little too high. And so if we just pass whatever they request, I think that's a little too high for just 1 year increase. So if it's a lower number, then I can vote for it.
What would you suggest?
So
No, we didn't budget 70. We just put it in as a placeholder last night. That's
On the
all.
budget, it says
Right now it
70.
says 63.
Yes.
But it's really, it's supposed to be 63. Somehow or other, they held the place at 70. But I want to say this. I'm not saying this for anybody else. I'm saying for me. I give money to MRHS. Teresa and I give money every year to MRHS. I think other people at this table do. it disturbs me greatly that we are turning over what is the equivalent of 0.75% of our budget to this organization with no accounting of the money that we can see. I should have an accounting. As the board, I should have an accounting. When you come here with a letter that is vague like this and say they should get everything they want, that's wrong. That is really wrong. And knowing the routine that we have gone through every year, said nothing to support this, it would be wrong to pass that number. That number is a wrong number.
So what do you want to buy?
How about 5% like the maintenance increase?
Right, yeah, that is okay.
We've given 5% over the 63,
That would be 66.
that would be 66, and that would be a fair number. Because remember, we're giving him, that organization is getting from the board $17,000 over what they need to satisfy the state requirement for them to exist here. And then all of us sitting at this table may be giving even more money on top of that as individuals. But the board, which is the shareholders' money, it's the shareholders' money. When you are approaching almost 1% of maintenance to give to them without any accounting, real accounting of money, and saying that book is satisfactory, that's a bad thing to do. It's a bad financial, I'm not shaking at you. It's a bad, I'm sorry. It's a bad financial decision because we're allowing something to go forward that's wrong.
I think that's a legitimate point. I think what I would say is not him, it's us. It's our seniors. We're not giving money to him, we're giving money back to us. So I think that's a big difference. We're taking care of our elderly and all of us are doing it.
Has anybody gone to him to say what you just said? Look, this is inadequate.
Andy asked for more information. Andy went to him and asked for it. But we shouldn't have
In
had
other
to.
years, he's known that.
She knows it. He's given she more information than he's given us.
He's given an accountant?
Point made.
Right,
I mean, it's budget, it's an admission.
It's budget.
Now, here's the question. A proposal was made to make it 5%, which is more than what we're asking the shareholders to pay an increase. Is that a satisfactory number? We'll increase it by 5%. $63,000 by 5%. If we agree, that'll be the number. What's the number? If it's 5%? 66,000. Is that satisfactory?
How do I split the difference? You know, make it,
Splitting the difference would be 68.9, so 69.
No.
you know,
I don't-
50% babies.
No, you know, we're giving that organization a lot of money with no accounting. I think it's fair to give him an increase, but it's not fair to give him more than what the shareholders are giving us back to support
How
us.
close you are.
No, we're close this way. Give me more information, and the board would decide in a different way. And you should know better, because you've been doing this for, I don't know how many years.
Pass the budget tonight, though.
Not you personally, I don't mean you. So, what are we doing? 60, 66?
I would just say the one day, I ask for money, if a program manager comes to me and he says he needs some more information, that's all I do for the next day, is I get that information. That's the standard drill for anyone who needs to get money.
That's exactly right.
All right, so, we're talking about $66,000, a 5% bump. Do we have an agreement? We do? All right, it's coming, the number, the motion?
Wait, we don't have.
I'm gonna go to a vote.
On the table.
So
I'm seeing head shake.
Wait,
I'm
it's
seeing-
my motion, right?
There's a motion on the table.
Yeah, she has the
So
motion
I
on the
will
table.
Well, you have,
Yes,
your motion
so ask
seconded?
Maxine.
What was your motion?
no,
Our
he's
motion
saying,
was to ask Maxine.
what do you wanna do, Maitri? Do you wanna accept the 66 as the number?
I would split it. I was gonna.
I don't think it's gonna pass higher. I tell you right now, I don't get a sense that it's gonna pass higher.
67,
Let's
we're
make it
67.
Mike, you're adorable, but we gotta make a decision. I think 66 is gonna pass, and we're not gonna be happy with it, but we're gonna do it because we're gonna expect more and better accounting from him. And not just for us, for everybody that gives money to him, there has to be a better accounting. Everyone.
I think it's an omission, but go ahead, what were you saying?
I just wish there were a way to address it, maybe on a contingent basis. I mean, we know they do good work. They've given us,
I
it's
think
not
our
as if they've
budget
never
is-
given us an accounting ever. They have. This year, for whatever reason, there's been this lapse.
66 is a fair number.
Is it?
We're giving, that would increase the donation to $20,000.
You should see the work some committees did.
Over
for budgets
what he
that-
needs.
That we are doing things we value a lot. And
You're right.
it's-
You're right.
It would increase it by $20,000 over what the base state asks for.
Oh,
Let's vote on this, let's vote on
But I
this.
can't
Are we
vote
voting
this.
on the 66,000?
Marjorie either accepts the amendment or she doesn't.
What was
Tell me
the
which one to do,
original
let's
motion?
vote.
79, 75, I mean, 75.
I'm following
all right, let's go
the
with 66.
Okay, it's 66. No more discussion. All in favor?
Did you accept that?
Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's unanimous.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Wait, I got a motion.
okay.
Please write it out.
This is about an item now. We're talking about an
Yeah,
item.
it's for the fuel item.
Go ahead.
Reduce the fuel budget projection by $175,000.
Based on what?
I'll tell you.
Oh, is there a second?
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay,
okay, second.
all right. I've just been, while everybody's talking about like, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, but more than So,
But look how concerned you are about 1 3/4% of the budget to lower that number. That's what it's worth. It's worth 1 3/4%.
we're on to a different item.
I know, but think about the value.
I'm thinking about what I consider a rational process for all of these items, okay? And Andy, I gotta
Nothing
tell you,
meta, let's not.
yeah, I mean, I think we are like 95% here on.
I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm pointing out what the value is.
So, the reason being, if you look at the bottom right, you're $400,000 over, what was a normal / severe winter number, which is the last 2 winters essentially, 2010 and 2011. $400,000. This number basically reflects the, the crazy
I think he's looking at the 400.
1.6 versus 1.
You're focusing on the fuel, the oil portion.
I'm focusing first on the bottom line, I'll take it into my concern.
So mention a number so we know what you're looking at, Dan, I'm
You're
sorry.
looking at, 1.63, right?
Right,
1.64.
okay.
Versus if you look at 2011, which is 1.23 versus 1.2 in 2010, go up that line.
I'm looking, I got you.
Right? Those were, essentially, normal, severe, but, severe years with normal operations. If something gets broken, we have a problem. But I think that, I think we should make an assumption that we're good now on our system. We don't need the boilers. We're not going to need major oil heat. We have, our supply here. I mean, we have our regular system. That would say that these numbers are more in line. And I was just kind of going through some of this. And, yes, Russell. I mean, I think in the summer months, the numbers come down because of because the cost per unit of gas is cheaper now. So yes, they do. But I mean, you look at January and December, and even November. I mean, they are way out of whack. I mean, $350,000 for December, $300,000 for January are over $100,000 over over your other numbers. $150,000. And I understand conservatism, and I think we should be conservative. And I think that if we do something that's, a bump enough, essentially that'll bring us to what, like 1.5 or a little less than 1.5, which is still $300,000 more than January, than 2010 and 2011, right? Which is still a good, probably 15% increase. I can't do the math anymore, but it's a lot more. So I think it's still conservative. I think this number is way out of whack, though.
Russell, you want to address it?
I agree. I mean, admittedly, I am being very aggressive on both accounts.
Conservative. No, conservative.
Well,
Aggressive would be the way he's cutting.
Right.
You're a conservative.
I do see your point. As I ran these numbers and I ran these charts, I see the discrepancies you're describing. However, my main concern really is that this data is 2 years old, number one. There's been significant price differences. And we don't, there's a huge X factor here with the delivery charges, There's huge X factors here that
Kind of bang us really bad.
I have not fully grasped intellectually how they come up with delivery charges. You know, one month it's 21 cents per therm, next month it's 54 cents per therm, you know. I'm sure there's a formula behind it, but I have yet to grasp it. Coming out of a year where it was an extreme case and we did run temporary boilers for the entire year, we missed budget by 400,000, 300 as of October, but I'm expecting it to grow a little bit in the next 2 months just because we're running into a higher season. So, you know, we're looking at say a $400,000 gap that we had to, the board actually had to vote and surcharge everyone $100,000 to try to make up for a little bit of difference. It looks like we're going to close out this year in a very favorable financial position. I am being very conservative. I get that, but I also believe that there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to energy. I already reduced it 100,000+ just from the looking at past history versus the taking last year's number, adding 5% type scenario, which was originally presented. So there is a thought process. I do agree that I am being very conservative. I am doubling down in some areas, on particular January and December. I literally am almost doubling down on these 2 months, to the tune of, you know, 200,000, give or take, 150 to 200,000. But at this point, with the increase the shareholders are expected to get, we're talking to reducing it by another %. That at some point they may need to. We may need to recoup this money out.
That logic, okay, I just want to say, that logic, if you keep on using that logic, it's like, the numbers are the numbers. I mean, I don't think we should peg it. If I said that I thought you were low on this and you should go to 400,000 more, I'd say that.
Right.
Okay? Right. And if I'm in a higher maintenance increase, so be it. But I don't think we should start pegging like, you know, like what our final budget number is.
No, I agree. That's how, I want to say that as a disclaimer, that's how we got to this number. The percentage increase is the last thing that happens, basically. You furrow out all expenses, you furrow out all income, the bottom line is going to be the bottom line.
All right. Hold on. Ian.
I want to say 2 things. I think there's obviously guesswork involved here in predicting the future. I like what Dan said, but I would say 100,000 instead of what did you say, 175. But the other question came up is how does so basically the delivery, or who sets the delivery? So I went to the CNYC, I went to these classes, and this was talked about, wherein people would find cheaper gas, and the next thing you know, then the delivery costs would go up, such that you could not save it. So there's this magical thing that happens where they find out you're saving money and they charge you more money. So that makes me not comfortable at 175.
Con Ed is not your friend. Okay, we've discussed it.
You want to propose something else?
Well, the motion's on the floor.
I'll amend my motion to
He never had it
$100,000.
Well,
Would you write it down, please?
Please write it out and say that you're writing it so we can hear it.
Okay, move to reduce fuel cost,
Specifically oil, put it on the oil category versus the gas, right?
Sure. Reduce, doesn't matter.
Did it get
Oil,
Guarantee it?
oil cost.
Okay. We'll look at a surcharge.
$100,000.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but you never know.
Okay, that's
Huh?
what it is.
I don't want to vote for it. Is it seconded? Might be seconded. Okay, just pass that around to her.
Thank you.
All right, everyone knows what the issue is. I'll be the last speaker. I'm just gonna say this, I believe in conservatism. I'm opposed to this guessing game of someone who has never managed a project. Russell's our general manager. The worst thing that happens here, the worst thing, is that there's a surplus. That's the worst thing. And you know what the surplus does? It goes into capital reserve fund. That's the worst thing that happens. And that capital reserve fund, believe me, needs that money. Because there's a projection of the capital reserve keeps getting at a certain rate going in, so that you have the money to complete the capital projects in the 10-year span. So there's not a loss here. We're not throwing away money. We're collecting it. It's going to be used one of 2 ways: to balance the budget, or there's a surplus and the money goes to capital reserve. Okay? We vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3.
All in favor of what?
The motion.
Reducing the energy.
$100,000.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes,
before you-
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Larry, but I think it also has to be balanced against the fact that we have, a lot of people here who can't afford, these constant increases in maintenance charges every year. So to the extent we can somehow lessen the impact, I think we should. I think we have an obligation to the shareholders that can't afford to pay these seemingly continuous maintenance increases. And we have an obligation to basically guess conservatively, but also do it within reason. So-
And Russell has given his reasons.
And I
Okay?
think that
I
has to
haven't
Chief?
gone through this yet. Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah, but I just say that even though Dan didn't specify each month, but since we just got this today, if you look at the month, like January, it's a higher number for the budget. Usually I went to our CNYC's workshops, like every year, not this year, before, like for the budget season, they always talk about you use the past 2 or 3 years numbers and then average out. If you want to be conservative, you get a little higher. If you look at 2010 and 2011, the January one, you see the average out is 200,000, like maybe 210,000. So, but the budget for 13 is 300,000. So there is a higher number. And then if you look at October and then November and December, it's the same thing. I know Russell's point. It's a little conservative. That's fine with me. But we think if we lower, like the Dan's proposal, 100,000, we could do it pretty well, because you see October 2010 is 50,000. Oh no, it's 50. And then 2011 is 136. And then if you average out, the number should be like about 100,000, right? So, but Russell budgeted 79,000, and the same thing for November and then December. So it's all higher than the average, even though if we gave average a higher number, it's still high. So if we are reducing 100,000 for the entire year, I think we are still good. That's my point.
Okay,
There are
now,
several months here where he's actually high, that he's low.
Yeah, I
Right,
know
there are like
that,
some
but you can balance out, but still, we should be good, like if we lower this 100,000.
okay,
But that's
whatever
my
the
point.
board's will is.
By hand.
You want?
No,
Okay.
no, I
Oh.
thought we were still by.
I'm trying to vote.
And we're voting.
We're gonna vote.
Yeah.
Now, everybody knows what the motion is. It's for $100,000 reduction in the fuel cost, which will now affect the budget by $100,000, which will probably lower us 0.22%
It
or
doesn't
something.
matter, it's just in one item, who cares what it does?
Well, it's important because it's gonna give you a final number. All in favor of the motion of reducing the fuel by $100,000, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, all opposed? 3. Dodona, Simmons, Carter. Okay.
You have a new number?
Oh, I'm gonna have to run calculation.
We're gonna calculation, okay. So are we now making a motion to approve the budget as it will be defined?
Oh, yeah,
With
so
the
now
two
I have
changes.
the thing that came out of the committee. So the finance committee recommends move.
Well, I think you have one more.
No. Treasurer. Then we can talk on the treasurer's motion, on the finance committee motion. Go ahead.
Move, finance committee recommends the board of directors approve the 2013 budget as presented, pending further review, which we just did, of fuel estimate and the annual MRH contribution, in addition of $100,000 to contingency line.
May I have that?
Okay. No second is necessary, it's a finance committee motion.
So we're, plus those amendments, so we have a,
Well, we've taken care of the amendments, we've dealt with everything that's involved.
can somebody do this on their Excel sheet, like, so we know what we.
You mean the final number?
You should have a laptop here, so we can.
Yeah, I know, I should actually brought it
Do
on
you
my
have,
laptop.
do you have it on your email or something like that, Russell?
It'll take me a couple minutes, I could run to my office and run a
We could
calculation.
take a 5-minute recess, good?
Yeah.
5-minute recess.
What about, one other question that we had though, so we don't, the personnel, We didn't get to dig into that because it was finance, and, you know, can we review at least what the increases?
Yeah, he could tell you in general terms, right?
No, but.
No, but we were gonna do it in closed session.
Specific terms, we have to go in closed session to do that.
That's the deal, you know, I mean, it's a $200,000 increase, I'm just, that doesn't seem like, I mean, I don't wanna say anymore, but it seems like, given some of the staff configurations.
We could talk about it in the general terms, I mean, it is 182,000, but it's only 4.9%. Total inclusive of all labor. That's their union increases, that's the increases to any benefits, that's increases to taxes, workman's comp, it's the complete package.
It assumes that, it assumes the staffing levels that we discussed in the last meeting.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
you know there's been a change.
Have some quiet and she's like.
You know there's been a change, and we approved the, well, we have something in closed session we have to approve,
That, yeah, but there's,
and that's the
we
stand.
can take it in recess. You know, we could do this in recess and just kind of talking it through like in the, a little bit like that.
Well, I'd have to throw these people out, and we still have to finish this meeting,
Can we have
so.
quiet in the back, Larry?
5 minutes recess to like just get the Excel sheet and then we can.
What?
I know the increases was taking into
Okay,
consideration.
go ahead.
Would be 3.67%, 3.68, I put it to round up.
Alright, no,
Oh, was it? Okay.
Just for the.
3.67%? Okay, that's the number we're approving?
That's the quick calculation with the
Yeah,
adjustment to
I
MRHS and the.
added 3, took away 100.
Took away 100.
Right. So in a.
Took away 100 and, we should 104,000 technically. Because the budget marker for MRHS was 70,000.
Down 4.
That's down to 66.
Down 4, sorry.
Right.
Right, so it would be 104,000 total.
Can you do it again?
Yes, sure.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Just a minute, we'll have a number in 1 second.
I have a question and a proposal about what the budget one. So can I
Okay.
do that, or are we gonna take a break?
No, we're not gonna take a break, we're gonna have the number. Hold on, but we are discussing the motion on the floor, Doug.
Well,
So you're gonna have to do it within the context of the motion now. The motion is to accept, to approve the budget as presented, and now we have that number, and we're just getting the last number.
Wait, it's, we're going up 4, no, it's 9. Oh, 70 minus 4. No, it's minus 96, actually, it's minus 96. We're adding 4.
No, we're taking away from the number in here, it was 70
Right.
and 66.
70 was the number
Okay,
here.
Okay.
So it's 104,000 reduction in the budget based on the numbers that are in the document. So the total,
It's, yeah, 3.62. 3.622.
right, because you have a total budget of, just so we're clear, you used the number, total budget of 17,773,603. You took 104,000 away from that number.
Wait, 7?
17,000.
Am I correct?
733.
$17,773,603. You take away $104,000 from that number.
Correct,
Right.
That's the number you're working on.
Okay.
And that number, compared to last year's number, is the percent of increase. We all agree that's the way it's gotta be done?
Okay, let's do that. I was going directly to maintenance. Divided by. Sorry, that's 4.9.
4.9, that makes sense.
No, that's not.
All right, let's take a recess.
Let's take a recess. Let me run it through Excel on the computer.
Okay, go ahead. 5 minutes, and then we have one more open item to deal with before we go. 2 more open items to deal with. Go ahead. How did you do that, Will? I gave
Work with the bottom line.
you gotta use the bottom line. Total expense is 17,773,603 minus 104,000.
I think we should work with expenses because he's $132 surplus, so maybe you should work with income.
Yeah, just work with income.
Oh, no, nothing for you. Yeah, no, nothing for you.
All right, so income,
Well, look at the last, yeah, income is the bottom line of the first page.
but it's still $17,773,430. It's $104,000.
And then divide that, divide 16.
That's what I
Well,
got.
I just gotta cut it down. I can't understand this. I can't understand.
Is it the parenthesis of the deficit anyway?
So there's something wrong with his number, if that's the case.
What's the problem now?
So we, okay, let's see how we get his upgrade.
You need to add.
Yeah, I was doing directly on maintenance, which is what I was doing.
Right.
As opposed to total income.
That makes sense. It's a percentage of the bill.
Yeah, only the
Maintenance line, okay.
So the
6.67 is the right number then. Right, so you use the $17,243,996 number.
If I do math, then I get 4.1, so what if it's a management formula?
It's the top line, the top line of the first page.
Yeah, the difference is divided by.
Oh, you're talking about 13 million.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's 3.67.
And then now the 13,770.
I just
Our income would increase by 4.9%. Our maintenance,
Yes,
because of other.
that is where he got his
But our
number.
maintenance increased by 3.67.
I just reproduced his number, and it's that number, the third number divided by the second number on the top line is 1.844. So that is how
Yeah, what's up with even coffee? Not even coffee.
I'm saving money.
How much?
Whatever it is, I'm saving it. I have no money to
Then
spend.
bring a pot from your house.
You know something, we should do coffee. We always have coffee. Look, I can't explain two things tonight. Seriously, I can't explain how we got an 8 o'clock start, and neither can Don. We don't know. We don't know how it got to the 8 o'clock. Don and I can't figure it out. I know. And we don't know, and I can't explain how there's no coffee here. So we're gonna have to take care of it. But you're right, we always have coffee. We should have. So what's the line you get now? My drink. There's this, now we're not tracking, not counting. Well, I gotta tell you, if one was collecting money for shareholders, which he does, and he's getting donations, and they're giving him money, he has to come up with something that shows the money.
I think the budget is there. I think it's just provided.
Even in his blue report, he doesn't put a budget. In that report, there's no budget.
There has to be one.
It's a regular nonprofit.
When you come to ask for money, you have to treat us the way you treat the state or the city. We're giving him, we're a corporation. I'm not saying don't give it to him. I'm saying prove to me it.
We all agree on 3.62.
What's the number? Okay. 3.62. That's right, you did. By the way, I want to say that.
First one, I think.
All right, we're back in session. The number is now 3.62% to the shareholders. That's the maintenance increase. That's the number. The motion is now complete. We have a number. All in favor of approving the budget as presented, say aye. 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 Okay.
I'm just not,
All right.
I don't feel confident to vote, you know. It looks good, but I gotta understand.
Okay, Doug, what's your vote? Opposed. Okay.
1 no, Mr. Simmons, and 1 abstention.
Yes.
Didn't get a chance.
The motion was on the floor. But why don't you raise it now? Courtesy of the chair to the second vice president. Raise it.
Well, I have one question also. I
Yes.
have one question and one proposal for a change. Last night, the budget that you gave us showed, let me see if I can, showed the management fee. This is 2012 budget compared to 2013 budget. Showed the management fee going from 505 to 540.
Yes.
The budget we got tonight shows the management fee going from 505 to 552. And we know that there's a 2.5% increase from year 1 to year 2. So how, we talked a little bit about this last night, but
540 is the base.
Right, 540K times 2.5% bumps it up to 552.
and
Remember?
540 is the fee plus the salary increase?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
exactly what it is, though.
Okay.
Do you want to change your vote now?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't because I think that I was going to propose that we.
I wasn't being sarcastic.
$100,000. I didn't think it worked.
Okay. Because people left, I don't want you to think that.
I think that we should put another $100,000 of contingency into the budget. You know, a $17 million budget, $100,000 is about 0.5% contingency. Our budget has a 0.5% contingency. I think it's irresponsible. Plus, as I said last night, we said from day one that we would plan for this balloon note that we have coming up. We have done nothing about it. We did nothing last year, except say we don't want to have a bigger maintenance increase. And this year again, I guess we're saying we don't want to have a bigger maintenance increase. And we'll do that next year, and next year, and next year, and then as the time approaches, and that prospective buyers are looking at our finances and seeing this balloon note coming, and seeing that we have made no provision to knock it down a little bit. Not to mention that there may be things come up that we really need to continue. I just think it's irresponsible to have a $17 million budget with a less than 0.5% contingency. For that reason, I voted against the budget.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion to amend the budget? Because the budget's still here, we voted to approve the budget as it stands. Do you want to make a motion to amend that budget now?
I will make that motion if I
Okay.
can. I'll make a motion to amend the line. Look at the right budget.
It's the contingency line, Doug, is the one you're talking
Yeah,
about.
on the last page of the budget.
You'll have to write that out, too.
I will. I'll make a motion to amend the 2013 budget line called contingency from 100,000 to 200,000.
Well, if you make it 204,000.
We could just jump back to the old percentage. You know?
All right, 204,000. We're back. Okay, so it's 204,000. Is there a second for the motion made by Doug? A second? A second?
Thank you,
John seconds it. Okay, discussion. Doug, you have a second bite of the apple. Go ahead.
No, I think I said it.
All
I'm
right,
sure everybody
Dan.
understands.
I completely agree with you at this point. And I think that, I agree we should be putting away, and I think we will. I think in fact, because of the fuel, you know, I still think we're gonna come away under this fuel. That essentially we had built that contingency into the budget in what we passed already. And I think doing another $100,000 on top of that, is more pain than is necessary. I agree with your laugh.
I want to point something out to everyone on the board. Last year, we put $100,000 in the budget as contingency. We ate that $100,000. We ate $100,000, we're into the second $100,000, which is the surcharge. Doug's point is well taken. Just to run the budget, it would not be inappropriate to have $200,000 $204,000 in contingency. It would not be inappropriate. So, I leave it out there. Anybody else want to speak to it or against it? No? Chief?
I just, because Doug mentioned that yesterday, at the finance committee, we mentioned this point, and then I also want to have the shareholders in the back to know that when we discuss this, and then someone in the finance committee also mentioned that there are different ways to do this kind of things. I said that, I'll repeat what I said yesterday at the meeting. I said, I agree we should have certain, like, more money into our funding reserve or contingency, whatever you call it.
It's two different things.
Yeah, I know, but we are getting out of the money out of shareholders' pockets all the time. And then I think we should find some ways in the near future to create revenues rather than just picking out the money out of shareholders' pocket. For the last few years, you see 15% increase, I don't know, and then other things. So that's too much, especially this year. And then for the parking spaces, there are people getting 30% increase for the parking. And then biking, like bike storage is doubled also. So if you do it this year, even though you see the percentage just now, the board passed is 3 point something, seems low, but if you add up other increases for certain, maybe half of the shareholders, it's still not so low, because count those numbers increase in different areas. So I still think the board and then other committees, and then we should really think of creative ways to get revenues. And then also to deal with the balloon later on, like Russell also mentioned yesterday, for other co-ops, there are different ways to deal with it. Some co-ops just do the refinancing. They'll do like yesterday, John Kepler also mentioned, like we'll just do it like 18 months before the due date and then to see what's the best option for the co-op. But of course, some other co-ops, which is, I think they have smaller ones, but they eat it out. But it's the impact is very huge for the current shareholders. So I think I will not agree to put up this money at this time.
I thought you wanted to raise parking rates more.
Yeah, because next year we have to be equally to
Okay,
shareholders.
so,
Okay,
anybody?
yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
Look, nobody disagrees in principle with the idea that we should find other sources of revenue. But the point is, we're now going into the second year after our loan, and we have not come up with any great money-making ventures that don't rely on our shareholders. If we do, then that's fine. You know, but we can't go every year and say, we're not gonna deal with this problem because we're going to, next year, we're gonna find some way to print money and we won't have to ask the shareholders for money. You know, it's not, I'm suggesting we deal with it realistically. You're talking here about, this increase represents about, another $100,000 is about 0.75% of maintenance. When we discussed this last night, Chief, we were talking about, before the revisions that we just made, we were talking about a 5-something% increase when we were looking at this budget last night. It's now under that even with my proposal. I just think it doesn't make sense to go another year and say, you know, next year we'll figure out something to do, or maybe the year after that. We'll cut something, or we'll put up a billboard on the garage and make a lot of money. Or I just don't think it makes sense to wait. I think we should deal with it bit by bit as time. And if we come up with some great thing next year and we don't have to increase maintenance, then fine, we'll make the adjustment. But right now, where we are right now, is that we have done nothing to plan for this, even though the board committed itself, and its then president committed himself to dealing with this as soon as we got the loan. So I say, well, let's just bite the bullet. It ain't that big a bullet. It ain't that big a bullet.
Andy?
We did come up, there was a great idea that saved shareholders money this year, which is the in honor of campaign. So people are able to come up with things that are saving our capital reserve to put a whole bunch of, to plant a whole bunch of things on our grounds. So I would say that there's not all ideas are shut down, and one actually made it through this year.
Yvonne?
I just wanted to say that, Chief, I agree in principle with what you're saying. However, I think that the problem is we don't have those new sources of income, and we don't know how long it's going to take to come up with them. We even have a new committee that's looking for new sources of income, and that's great. But until we actually come up with it, I think maybe we need to do something.
Yeah, I think, which committee is looking at the new?
There's a subcommittee of the long-range planning, Dan is on it, and so is Marie.
Have I like recorded out, or is it still active?
Yeah,
You haven't met? It's not my fault.
I really have ideas, but I'm not on that committee. So I think that committee, if it's really active, we can do something right away next year, but I don't want to discuss it right here because I'd like to discuss it with a few people to see the people, like what people like, whether they like the ideas. Because I don't want to talk about it prematurely. So.
But you're not on topic. The topic is.
I'm on the topic.
No, because the topic is, what do we do this year, right now? The motion is on the floor to do something this year, right now.
Yeah.
Now, unless there's some other discussion about this matter, we're going to a vote. Okay? All in favor of Doug's motion, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Andy, be independent.
He's the treasurer. 7, we got 7. Okay, all opposed?
It didn't matter.
You can take independently, I know you can do it. I know you can, someday.
You're being unfair to Andy, believe me. Abstain?
That's supposed to question
Okay.
motivation.
Oh, is that right?
Okay, we're now up to the talkative. We're now up to the person who has talked through most of this meeting and disturbed some board members. Dana, would you like to come up?
Oh,
Let's make it clear
Oh,
now.
okay.
The budget is now back up to the 4.41%.
Exactly.
Just the funds are allocated in different categories.
Correct.
Right, so,
The motions will say that.
so now is 4.41% is the increase to the shareholders this year.
I think the minutes in the flash report should reflect this two-step process.
It does.
It does, it will affect.
It
There's
reflects
two
motions.
motions, and we're gonna go forward. Okay, Dana, would you like to come up, please?
You're right, it feels like we're dancing two-step.
Do the trick. Crazy, what's that? Oh, look at it. I want to feel good that I voted right, and look at you're sitting there, make me feel guilty.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Dana, welcome to the table. Dana is the chair of the amenities committee. You have 3 motions to present. Please present number 1. We will deal with it and move on. There's no second this. No, it has to be moved and seconded by board members. So why don't you, is anyone here willing to move this motion? Number 1.
On
Kind
Dennis'
of
sheet.
move, given what we've just passed with the parking.
Well, of course it is, but we have to deal with it. So is anyone willing to move and second this
Yes,
motion?
I will move it.
Okay, anyone willing to second it?
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Detta, speak to it.
Read it.
No, let's read it, yeah.
Okay, vehicles must be parked within the lines and be far enough into the parking spot so as not to block the right of way. Any combination of vehicles may be parked in the spot, bike, motorcycle, car, as long as they fit within the spot. Empty shopping carts may be stored in parking spots. All other storage is discouraged.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, for me as chair of amenities committee, this was not something I envisioned having to tackle. We, as an amenities committee, made a recommendation to the finance committee for an increase in parking. I mean, that was as far as I envisioned dealing with parking. But it was brought to the committee to delve into it a little further. And as I wrote, there was a lot of different voices on the committee. There was not a strong consensus. there were some voices saying, hey, someone pays for a spot, let them use it as they see fit. Other people saying, no, it should only be cars. Someone else saying, well, okay, maybe some of this and some of that. So you're left with this motion, you know, that
Right.
the board can do it as they see fit.
Well, we have to vote it down because it doesn't agree with what we just passed earlier. So,
So we can move on, right?
Can we call it?
we have to first vote it down, then move on, right? So, if there's any other discussion, I don't see why there should be, we should just deal with this now. Is that okay? All right. All in favor of this motion, raise your hands. All opposed? All opposed? No? Okay. All again, all abstain? One? Mind you, you gotta do something.
Are you abstaining or voting no?
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Okay, so two abstentions,
She
and,
abstained.
yeah,
Voting
okay.
not present.
All right. Second motion.
Did they say the reason?
No.
No.
It's fine. Sorry. She is fine. So, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
motion two, as of January 1st, 2013, the rates for renting the Thurgood Marshall Community Room and the Recreation Center are $30 for up to an hour, $50 for up to 2 hours, $100 for up to 4 hours, and $150 for up to 8 hours.
Someone needs
Wait,
to move it.
Okay.
move it.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Now, Deb.
So, we currently have a dysfunctional system where it's $25 for any period of time, up to for 1 hour or up to a whole day. So that's dysfunctional. I mean, it doesn't, obviously that's not fair. 1 hour or 10 hours is the same, $25. The amenities committee was originally thinking of much higher rates for these room rentals because we were looking at other room rentals in the area. And then Russell weighed in, and he had slightly lower rates, and well, much lower than what the committee was thinking of. So then the committee basically took the $50. We took Russell's recommended rates and just raised them just a little.
Okay.
He didn't have an hour rate, we added that in. He did recommend $50 for up to 2 hours. Management's recommendation was $75 for up to 4 hours. The amenities committee felt 100 was better.
Okay.
Management's recommendation was 125 for up to 8 hours. We felt 150 was better. So that's how we arrived on this. I mean, we didn't want to. This is something to try. We're going to try it. We're going to try it. We're going to try to get a better sign-up system in place. We're going to try to get more clarity on who has to pay and who gets it waived.
Okay, that's another set of rules that has to be created, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be taking care of that, the committee.
We know we need to get clarity on, to make clear who pays and who doesn't.
Okay, and that'll come as a motion to the board at some point?
Yeah.
Okay. Maitri?
So, who are the kinds of people who are renting the space right now? Is it like kids, but like who rents it? Kids birthdays? Like what are examples of people who are?
I came in, someone was giving a seminar, they rented the room to give a seminar.
And personally, I rented it many times for my kids' birthdays,
Yeah.
so.
That's when it was 25.
Yoga classes.
Right. You know what, it was a, you know, I'm just wondering, the committee consider just doing a half-day rate and full-day rate versus all these like hourly.
No, it is.
Yeah.
You have a.
Just basically,
Two rates.
70, let's say 75 for half-day and 150 for the whole day.
Well, the thing is,
Well, a whole day would have to be 8 hours. You don't mean just to say a whole day, because that could be 24 hours. You don't want to
Right,
be
right.
unclear,
But-
right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
the committee started with 3 rates. Up to 2 hours, and then the half day and the full day. We did not want to leave out the up to 2 hour rate because that is a huge percentage of who rents it, for sure. The yoga classes first. And then the committee thought, well, there might even be people who really are going to get in and out in 1 hour, so we should even have a rate for that. So
It doesn't mean it'll ever be used, but it's there, it's available. That's what's gonna happen. And if it never gets used, we can revisit this and do whatever we want with it. Any more discussion?
No.
Good. Ed, stop being so fast. We got a lot of work yet to go.
No.
All right, all in favor of this motion, please? Signify by hands. 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
It's
unanimous.
unanimous? Good.
Yay.
Okay. Motion 3, then, go ahead.
To modify the Building 6 basement craft group space, it is recommended that the cost of materials for renovation, sheetrock, compound paint, framing tape, slop sink pipe, at an estimated cost of under $100,000.
Whoa! Wait.
$100,000 be evenly split between Morningside and the workshop craft groups. MHHC will provide an electrician to do the electrical work at no cost to the workshop craft groups. All other work will be done by workshop craft group volunteers.
Okay, any discussion?
Someone needs to move.
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. Move. Andy, second.
Thank you, Alfred.
No,
Alfred. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
So this is a result of the reconfiguration that we discussed?
That we approved last
This
month.
is the implementation of
Okay,
that.
but it's not the stuff in that other like film room, right? It's in the main room.
Well, this is no, I mean, the corporation paid to have the kiln room set up, but the ceramics group is unhappy working in there, so they want this other room created.
The answer is yes.
1 second. The answer is
Is yes.
that space, remember that little space that they carved out? That's the space we're talking about. We're talking about that space and the space across the way from that space. The old dark room, media room, and a little piece of the open space is gonna be used to build that for the ceramics and across the way.
I get it.
Okay?
So I think this gets into, for essentially $500, I think it's, the wood shop is getting their pieces, created or, their space taken care of here. Are we asking them to like pay for the cost of doing that?
The wood shop is really, when you look at the volunteers, they're all from the wood shop. So the wood shop is gonna
The wood shop is building the walls.
and the plumbing and the
All we're
sink.
buying is materials.
So they're plus they're, this treasury that the workshop will pay their half out of is from everybody. It's from both wood shop and ceramics. So
It's the workshop's general kitty?
It's the
Yeah,
joint treasury.
Yeah.
Will be paid from that.
All right.
And the wood shop really gets credit for
All right.
their volunteers.
Anybody else? Let's move this. All in favor? Signify. It's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Dana. All right, we are now up to MGC, no, not yet, one more open session, one more motion. John, would you like to, you're the liaison, would you like to tell us about this, please?
Yes, it's in your packet. At the last MGCA meeting, the delegates voted. They were quite impressed with the work that the staff had done for the Storm Sandy, and they moved that MGCA expresses a heartfelt thank you to all MHHC employees, members of the public safety staff, 32 BJ porters and handymen and engineers who demonstrated dedicated service to MHHC shareholders and the property before, during, and after Storm Sandy.
Do we need to move this, or we're just reading it
I
into
was
the
just
record?
told that.
Okay, we're just reading it into the record. Okay, done. President's report.
Whoa. So that's,
It's
Not
ready
a
for the
motion,
report.
it's
Okay,
just
good.
reporting.
It's a motion that they made, and it's just.
We have to do nothing. All right, now, there's several things we're gonna be doing here, but first let me,
Russell, your point of noting, your outstanding service from our staff at the beginning, that's from management, but I would just wonder, if the board is kind of silent on it?
well, the board president's gonna speak to this. If you let the board president
Oh,
speak.
I didn't realize you had, I thought you were moving on, Larry.
I'm moving to my report.
Oh,
Okay, we're all punchy. You haven't been here in a while, Jeanette. We really move much faster than this. But we got bogged down on the first issue because we were discussing something that really should have been quicker than that. But okay. So I want to first of all say this. I am so happy to have Russell as the general manager, Tom Trevino in charge of maintenance, and Vincent Montalvo in charge of public safety. The three of them boosted our staff morale. We got tremendous participation. It was a wonderful thing during that storm to have so many of our workers on site working. They slept here, they ate here. It was great. And it's due to the leadership of those three people. And I want to thank you and thank Vincent and Tom and thank all the workers that followed Vincent, Tom, and Russell. And I believe it was successful because of the workers being here. We actually had a good a plan to prevent damage to the property from ourselves. Brand, we couldn't control because that was beyond, that means it was just, nothing could defeat 75 mile an hour, 90 mile an hour winds. And we had a little damage from that, but otherwise, it'll be taken care of. It was a successful moment. The trees, unless you went out to hug them, you weren't gonna protect them, because those trees we took a beating on some of our trees. And speaking about the storm, Bren owes us, tomorrow, Russell's gonna bring up with Bren, the railings that fell down that are on the ground, that has to be cleaned up. There's a lamp post that's been destroyed that has to be restored, because we have to have that lamp post where it belongs, so that'll be taken care of. Anyhow, second thank you goes out to Andrea Brecker. I want to thank you, and the board will be the recipient of this. Andrea has taken every resolution from open session and and put them into, I guess, Excel? Is that what it
Yes,
is?
it's in
Excel
Excel.
sheet. And it's searchable by category. So this is a big improvement over where we were, where we never know what we do as a board, but we can now find history. So we'll get this out to everybody.
Oh, that's scary.
Yes. Well, you're gonna be amazed what's happened between 2006 and now, but, you know, and so that'll be good. Now, the last item before I get to the really important moment here is that, as you remember, during the storm, RCN failed. And that was the second time in 2 or 3 months that it failed. First time, supposedly sabotage. This time, nobody has an explanation, and it took us many days to get back up. But the critical item here in this failure was the control booth, our public safety booth. Tomorrow, Verizon will be on site, and we're going old school. We're going copper wire to the control booth. The lines, the telephone lines should not go down, because Verizon hardwired lines did not go down at 9/11. They don't go down in firestorms. They don't go down it's a whole different setup. We should be in much better shape. God forbid we have something like this again, but we should have dedicated lines that will not fail in a crisis.
How much is that gonna cost?
I don't think it's that much. We're just changing service, right?
Right, I honestly, I don't know the exact cost
Can
of
we keep
the
our numbers?
installation, but we're gonna be on
You
retainer
have
phone
to,
numbers.
you have to.
It's-
All right.
It's the telephone lines too, where you
Now.
don't need any external power. You plug a jack in and it works.
Now, the third item, the third and last item of the President's report is, this weekend, we reached, you should know, I'll say this publicly, on Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock, the President convened a special meeting of shareholders. At 10 o'clock, the meeting was recessed for lack of a quorum. Over the next 4 days, people in this co-op, and I have to thank the following: Allison McDermott, Barbara Henry Williams, and the rest of the election committee, as well as many shareholders that went around knocking on doors to get the ballots in. So we went from over 100 shareholder deficit on Thursday night, starting when we opened the count. On Wednesday night. By Sunday, we had 503 ballots cast, which exceeded the quorum by 50 votes. So, thanks to all the shareholders working on this, it was a wonderful thing. We managed to get it passed. What happened was, it was announced to us on Monday by the elections committee that it had passed. The memo went out today to the shareholders telling them about the changes in the bylaws, and tonight we have to make nominations for the bylaws committee, because that committee now is unfilled. So per the bylaws, 6 members can be appointed to the committee once they have been elected by the board. So we are now into nominations of that committee.
Larry, why is the rush? Why do we need to do it tonight?
Because the next time we meet will be December. This committee should know who they are before December, because the first time they will meet will probably be in December to elect their president, their chairperson of the committee, and the first time they will begin work is January, and they have very important work to do.
Are they gonna meet in December, Leonard?
I believe they will to elect the chairperson. Well, to elect the chairperson, I believe they can. If the board feels, I mean, I will yield to the board. If the board feels that you want to hold off on this and wait until December, I think that might be a problem, but if that's your will, then I will respect that. So, you gotta tell me what your will is, and it's gotta be a majority. Maitri, I'm going with Maitri first, I know, I got it.
So what I would say is, so I think it was pretty short notice, and I had reached out to a couple of people that I thought would be, might be appropriate, but what, and so it's just, I think each of us might be doing the same process, but what might be helpful is for us to, give people some time to think about it, and maybe just have a paragraph about each person, because I think each of us will often nominate people, but we don't really know who that person is. So it'd be great to have a little bit of description as to why that person is a good person to nominate for such committee. So I think it just might be more thoughtful to give us some time.
Yes, Dan?
I'll let John.
John, I'm sorry, I didn't see, John.
I feel it's something that we can do quickly. I feel like we had this, I don't know if it was a short notice, we had this motion and we all get it, we knew we were gonna have to do it. I don't see why it should go long, and personally, I think I'd like to nominate Yvonne, who did such a great job on the.
Well, wait, but not the nominations, wait. I know.
Get the people on this committee rather quickly.
Oh, that, I can accept that, but we're not doing nominations yet. We gotta get a consent, we gotta get what the board feels. Is Jeanette?
Yeah,
No, John, Dan, who? Dan.
I think, I mean, I give you a lot of credit on getting the bylaws thing passed, I think a very smooth budget process, and I think this bylaws committee could be like the next piece of that, of really building, essentially, more or less of a consensus, non-divisive committee, where, if it's done right, and if it's done with, I think, it's kind of like Mike was suggesting, I think there are folks in this community and folks in this board who, are, can add a lot of value here, and I think that we should take, not a whole lot of time, but a little bit of deliberation over this.
Okay, Jeanette?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would agree with John regarding Yvonne. I think she did such a great job. I'd love for her to be on that committee. But also, I mean, would it really kill us to take a little time for this, see what members of our community might be interested. Some of the members of our community aren't even aware of what exactly we just accomplished. So, I don't know. I think to encourage, greater participation from the community might be nice to have a little more time, that's all.
Okay. Doug?
Well, I think enough people have expressed an interest in pushing this back a little bit. That's what we ought to do. If you feel that this is something which shouldn't wait until the regular meeting in December, then we should look at our calendars and have a short meeting in between, just as we did for this issue that Russell called. And I think that we should, on the board listserv, I think we should discuss it. If you have people that you want to propose, I think we can talk about it. Whenever the next meeting about this is going to be, we can discuss it on the listserv before so that we can.
So that we know our calendar, December 18th is the board meeting. So that's 4 weeks from today. We walk out of here, it's Thanksgiving, it's a lost week, right? So now it's 3 weeks away. Do you feel comfortable with just a 3 weeks delay? That's fine. I can do it in the next board meeting if that's the will of the people. If you want to have another meeting in between, we have done, business, work sessions to do things, but that would have to be an open session meeting. It can't be, it's not a closed session meeting. We have to convene a real session. So do you want me, I have no problem moving it back. I got the feeling that basically people want time. I don't want to deprive anybody of time. I look forward. My mantra is looking forward, okay? But I guess we could look forward slower, which is okay. Now, the question is, assuming we're now deferring this to the next sometime in the future, do you want to have another meeting in December? Yes? Is that the feeling?
No, that,
Yes.
But we need,
Short
I'm asking.
Yeah, I would,
There's no such thing.
I'm sorry, Chief, I didn't hear what you said.
Just one topic, short.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be a short meeting, but it would be one topic.
Yeah. Okay.
I will never make a promise of a short meeting when we're having a vote. Remember, you're gonna have nominations and votes, and, you know, that's gonna be an issue. Well, let me ask a question. We have the 4th, we keep it on Tuesdays. It's the 4th, the 11th, and... You know, you are very comical tonight. You have done very funny things to me tonight. But the 4th and the 11th, and the 27th, it could be the 27th as well. I think that's too short a time.
yeah, then we just do it the next board meeting.
18th then.
No, the 27th of November, I'm sorry. 27th of November, the 4th of December, the 11th of December. What is your pleasure? But we shouldn't have less than a unanimous board present for this. We need, it would be wrong not to have 11 members here.
Well, I'm working nights December 10th, so that week I wouldn't be able to meet.
Well, that knocks
So
out the...
what about December 4th?
December 4th is out. December 11th is out. So here's where we are. We're at the board meeting, folks. Okay? Now, I want you to understand, this is going to be an item on the agenda. I had the papers here, I had blank papers here for us to use so we can write down names and, you know, fill out ballots and stuff. But it'll be a specific item to do that right after the management report, before any other business is conducted. That's what we're going to do. Okay? So, everyone, Doug, you want?
The 27th.
Why does it have to be a Tuesday? I mean,
Oh.
if we want to have a meeting, an interim meeting.
Look, why don't we do it at the board? Everybody's got
Yeah,
different
it's-
plans.
I mean, I see your point, that, you know, I think we're anxious to get some good bylaws going for, you know, and a
I
good
think there's
discussion.
at least 2 important issues that we can talk about later that I think has to go to the bylaws that are really important. And I would like to make that known to the bylaws committee as soon as there's a bylaws committee. And I wouldn't do it, I'm not saying in private, I mean, I would say it, but there has to be a committee to say it to. So, and you gotta think about where we are in terms of the time frame of remember, we meet in December, then, what am I?
Yeah,
Oh,
this is the
now you
issue
come-
is the timing.
Right, now you come to, now you're in January. They have to complete their work by March, I believe, in order to have it ready for the ballot in May, if I'm correct. Am I right? So you're talking about a committee that has to be willing to meet more than once a month, maybe once a week, and they will have access to our attorney on top of it. You know that. The chair will have access to the attorney to be advising them. So whoever we're putting on this committee has to be, first of all, I want everybody to bear this in mind, they have to be cooperative people that are looking to reach success. That's how this board committee that I appointed worked. It was fabulous. I heard only good reports about everything that went on. I was really thrilled that it worked so well. So when you're thinking of names, you're thinking of people that will work together and will want to work as often as possible. Now, it doesn't mean we have to have only 6 names, but we have to have, whatever's going forward, it could be 15 names. It has to be 15 people that we believe, or 20 people that we believe that we can choose from any 20 names to make 6 people. Okay?
Do we only want
Andy.
I think that's the
Yeah.
thing about it.
When I hear you talk about this schedule, I think we should do it tonight because there's the idea that we want more participation in the community. There can only be 6 people on this committee. That's not much participation. So the idea that we need 15 people for a 6-person committee, I don't even quite understand.
I'm just saying, I assume if everybody makes a nomination, that's 11. And I would not make it.
Question, does the caucus have 6 names in mind? I mean,
What caucus?
The majority
Yeah.
caucus, the caucus.
No, you might mean the officers committee,
I have a
but
name in mind.
Yeah. I mean, do we, I mean,
Jeanette.
I don't have any.
I have a name and I have it
But I-
on complete
people on the
authority
board-
that you will be more available in January.
because you divulged that. You divulged that already, so you can't hide anymore. Chief, I'm sorry.
You never told me.
All right, wait. Chief.
Yeah, my concern is just, if we ask for board members, because the nomination can be non-board members. If we think they are okay, then we better talk to them before we nominate them. That's why I don't think we do it tonight. For board members, I can name
No
different
problem.
people.
Yeah, we can agree.
You can decline, you can whatever.
I think that's the main point.
But the board, it would be here's why it would be irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You can't just elect 3 board members when you have to put a field out.
That's what she's saying. That's exactly her point. She's saying that you have to get permission from the other people who are non-vet. We can agree as board members, but we have to still get permission
Yeah,
from
we
the
get
non-board
non-board
members.
members, we have to ask them
Yeah,
whether they
Let me
want.
see my
We
point.
have to know who we're voting.
You have to know all the possible candidates, because it doesn't mean there'll be 3 board members on this committee. It could be 2, it could be 3.
That's why we can't do it today.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You're in agreement. Hallelujah.
I'm
Let's
sorry,
move on.
I got lost there somewhere. So look, it's just no binding vote. Just give me a nod in the head here. Delay, 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 delay. That's 4.
Delay, but
Delay,
I'm in
5.
favor of an interim meeting.
All right. We can't, I can't get into a meeting.
Okay.
All right. So we're delaying till the board meeting. It'll be the second item on the agenda. I will tell Donna, and we will meet at 7:30. We will not meet at 8 o'clock. I don't know how the separation came in, and we will have coffee. Yes?
That means you come to the meeting and ask the person.
Yes,
Don't
yes.
nominate anyone who comes on and, kick the can down the road again.
I think we should even circulate specific candidates.
All right.
Before the board meeting, have it in the
Okay.
Can I say something about Sandy? Are you done with your report?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm finished my report. We're gonna go to closed session in about 20 seconds, but,
Yeah,
or 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay.
I just want to say something about Hurricane Sandy on Saturday.
Tropical storm Sandy.
Tropical storm. Or sure.
That's right, exactly.
On Saturday, Doug Simmons, his wife Jill Kupferberg, Cynthia Rock, Valerie Stewart, Bill Valentine were up, by Building 6, between Building 5 and Building 6, gathering all dead wood and twigs. There was this huge pile, if anybody saw it.
Oh, that's great.
Leaves, big boxes of big bags of leaves.
This is the cleanup you're talking
The
about.
cleanup. And I
Risking life on a limb.
and I understand Doug's gonna be out there every Saturday.
You really are doing a comedy act.
And Sharon, I just think they should be recognized.
Absolutely. We'll make
Have
it
you
part,
made a list of
yes,
names?
I'm gonna do it.
I'll do that.
Yes, we'll put it in as the president's report that we
They're out there for
recognize.
hours.
John, if it's okay with you, we'll put it in the president's report as those names, and would you write that list, so, okay. Before we walk out of here tonight, so she has it, okay? Are we finished we're finished now, right?